Fire for your mind. The Kosher Clinician. Hit that like button and share this stream if you're not a beta male.
What happens when the world takes the time to hear what men want? Are his needs hidden in obscurity or analyzed and scrutinized under the lens of female validation? Does her feelings shape his masculinity or the opposite?
I wonder, and I think this is, maybe it's kind of linked into what we're going to talk about with these other clips as well. But do you have any ideas about how this is going to, I have two questions. How do you think this might be reconciled? And what's your forecast? What's your prediction for how this is how this is going to play out in the near future?
So my forecast is that it's not going to work with the masculine men, because that is not something that I'm looking for in a relationship. Now, certainly it would be nice if I walked into my house and my wife greeted me, "Oh, baby, I missed you," this, that, and the other. That would be great. I'm not saying that men don't want any type, or certainly myself don't want any type of emotional connection. I think that's certainly necessary. But as far as marriage and intertwining, and when we talk about marriage, I'm assuming we're talking about intertwining our lives with the state. And so you're not going to get a lot of masculine men to sign up for that. As that clip you played before said, for men with options, you're just not going to get men to sign up for that. That's not a priority. And when they talk about, here's where it goes into the second part, there is this emotional connection and this, that, and the other. That takes a lot of effort for men. And I'm saying this as a man who has spent my time in male-dominated spaces, be it the church, be it, well, it was male-dominated, but not so much anymore.
Another conversation.
I have a lot of male friends, obviously, in my time in the police department, and I talked to these guys, right? We would talk to the fire guys, fire department personnel. We would just talk and just chop it up, and that is not a priority with them. And it takes a lot of emotional effort on the man's part to meet these needs. And I'm going to say something that's going to be really crazy. It can be torturous. It can be torturous.
My goodness.
It can be torturous to listen to on a daily basis your day. Not saying it shouldn't happen. Not saying that men shouldn't be concerned. But listen, baby, I gotta tell you, somebody stole my Pepsi. I had a refrigerator, and my boss did this, and the security guard didn't do that, and can you believe somebody parked in my spot this, and I had a deadline. Okay.
Fire for your mind. Kosher Clinician.
If it ain't seven, it ain't kosher. Heaven and hell, that's what they told you. Real men put the strap down and we can toss them. Young heads pick it back up and young dope them. This is our culture. Now we talking kosher. Clinician, masculinity issues. Absent fathers who miss you. Mama drama don't kiss you. All a part of the ritual. This is how they get you. Separate the men, women clipping babies pretend to. Damn. Lovers, haters acting like vultures. If it ain't seven, it ain't kosher. If it ain't kosher, ain't right, gotta divorce us. If it ain't seven, it ain't kosher. If it ain't kosher, ain't right, gotta divorce us. If it ain't seven, it ain't kosher. If it ain't kosher, ain't right, gotta divorce us. This is kosher condition. Seven wonders, the whole world gotta listen. This is kosher condition. Seven wonders, the whole world gotta listen. This is kosher condition. Seven wonders, the whole world gotta listen. This is kosher condition. Seven wonders, the whole world gotta listen. Listen. Listen.
All right, guys. Shout out to this intro, and I got my man in the house, Dr. L. We're gonna break this thing down. And the topic of discussion is: can we just get along? Why this matters in relationships? Now, as you guys know, I'm a licensed clinical therapist. I'm matriculated, as I always jokingly and seriously say, at the greatest state in the union, the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. Dr. L is a distinguished gentleman, background in law enforcement. He's a doctor, adjunct professor. And one of the things that's highly problematic in modern times, to the point that Dr. Helen Smith had wrote a book called His Side. The world never hears the side of a man and what he wants. And I'm really thinking about writing a book at some point about men and masculinity. And when men do tell their story, they have to be careful because it's always under feminine scrutiny. So we're going to have a very powerful show as Dr. L and I talk about the conversation and the timely conversation that he had with the young lady, Taylor Chandler, which is, a very fair and balanced analysis. And I've spoken to the young lady, and she's a very kind young lady. And the thing in civil discourse, guys, we're not going to agree with everything. I don't agree with everybody and everything and every ideology. And I'm okay with that. I'm sure Dr. L don't agree 100% with me. I'm okay with that, and vice versa. But we got to have cogent conversations to get the needle moving. And then having cogent conversations, men's ideologies and worldviews shouldn't be held under scrutiny based on liberal dogmas, feminine approval, or shaming language. So without further ado, I got my man Dr. L in the house, and we're gonna break this thing down from a psychoanalytic perspective. But also, we're going to get into why Dr. L did the show with Taylor and what he's getting from these conversations and why these conversations matter now, more so now than ever. So without further ado, good friend Dr. L in the house. You've been tearing the streets up lately, man. You've been taking a lot of bullets, man. Being a clarion caller for truth. And, I was sitting back, like Denzel Washington, like I told you, man. I said, my man. You just calling the ace like it is and not backing down, man. And so let's get into it, man. I can't hear you. Say something. I don't know if I can hear you or not.
Oh, can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. And Doc, okay, you did. All right, perfect. So Let's get into it, Doc. It's a pleasure to have you here, man. I respect you, Holly. You and I both have a background in law enforcement. I got my first degree in law enforcement. You had a good conversation with the young lady, Taylor. And Doc, we live in a time now where, in my opinion, that men got to tell their stories at the behest of feminine approval. And if men tell their story outside of the current zeitgeist that we live in, then you are misogynistic. What are you seeing in dating and relationships that prompted you to have this conversation with the young lady, Taylor Chandler, a licensed marriage and family therapist, which, I think she's a good young lady. I think she's fair and balanced. And she even came under scrutiny here lately. But as I've always said, I'll say it to her and I'll say it to anybody else. We got to hear what masculine men are talking about. And I love it how you preface it by saying masculine men, not these neutered men now that do what women expect them to do or say yes there. So I'm going to let you talk. I'm going to sit back and listen to be an autopilot. And tell me what you getting out of these conversations and what you're seeing as what's prompted you to be so verbose in your response to modern dating trends and relationships.
I got to write all that down. What am I seeing? So let me.
You said you got to write it down.
so so
Right,
what
right,
I'm
right,
so Taylor asked me to come on.
right,
We have conversations.
right,
Sometimes I send her some Instagram memes, and so sometimes in this space we all kind of watch the same videos.
right, right,
I've noticed that with other YouTubers as well. I think I'm going to react to a video and they beat me to it. A lot of
right, right,
times.
right, 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 right.
So that's a thing. So we wanted to have a conversation about what it's like in the dating field, for in particular for a divorced guy, uh, for a divorced guy to be in this particular space, and what we're seeing and how the times have changed. And so I wanted to kind of focus on that, how the times have changed. I wore my Generation X shirt, man. So
Oh, no
Generation
doubt,
X.
no doubt. Gen X, stand up. Gen X, stand up, man. Gen X, stand up, no doubt, man.
So
Right,
for those of us who were Gen X, we
right.
remember the slow songs in the
Yes,
'90s,
sir. We do.
groups
Yes, sir.
and
Right.
all that type of thing, and it was a different thing. You showed up to a woman's house with flowers and
Yes.
candy,
Yes, sir.
and
Right.
didn't mind paying for the date,
Right. Right.
and all these other things that that were expected in a chivalrous time. And so if you've been, where I've been and gotten divorced, you try to get up back out of here in the dating scene,
Right.
and you recognize that all that stuff that you did before is just completely taken advantage of. And the nice guys literally finish last.
Right.
And so we're trying to figure out, what happened, why this is going on, and everything like that. So that's the focus of the lens that I come through this conversation with.
Yes.
So
Right.
yes, Taylor and I had a great conversation. She was
Good
very open.
conversation. Yes.
She was very open to hearing what I had to say.
Right.
And yeah, I had to say, what we're seeing. And so I just kind of put it out there. This is what we're seeing, and you got to represent. As I thank for one for saying that.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
was a
yeah,
great
yeah, yeah,
conversation.
yeah, yeah, yeah. You
Yeah.
represented, man. You should have been the new. You look like Denzel Washington with that head on, man. Because you you definitely represented, man, and I was proud of you, man. Because one of the negative things about men's spaces. Listen, we know there are broken men in men's spaces. We know that there are some men that are very reactionary. I had men come at me last week, because of what I said about Kevin Samuels, and it wasn't to excoriate Kevin Samuels. I was just saying that. I don't believe that men should pay all bills unless a woman should meet a certain criteria, and I stand on that. You can't keep holding men to standards of old school traditionalism when you pick and choose when you want to be a traditional woman. And I'm no masculine man gonna be damn tap dancing to that nonsense. Either my masculinity is gonna run the relationship or your emotions gonna control me. And your emotions are not gonna control me. My masculinity is gonna run the relationship. But what's happened, Dr. L, is that the social contract has been violated. It's been severely violated. And what I'm seeing is that, some women say men don't have emotional intelligence. I'm gonna play a clip by the young lady that was on Taylor's show. And men don't have emotional intelligence, which I don't think that's true. I think men, for the most part, have been conditioned to acquiesce to the emotional whims of women in general. We know there are some loose men out here. There are men that are emotionally unregulated. But I think men have been conditioned to do it more so now than any other generation. And what I hear all the time is that, many times when we talk about heteronormative masculinity, it's always seen in a negative lens from a trauma narrative, in my opinion. And we're not saying that those traumas didn't happen in the past. We're not saying that there were some men that were obtuse and wrong, and they held money, and women, quote unquote, couldn't do anything. But it burns me up, Dr. L, because basically what it does, it invalidates everything that black men had to do in a generation, in a time when Jim Crow racism was not only real, but being called a boy, having limited economic opportunities, and all that shaped how black men more or less responded. And I will also argue that I don't know for sure 100% if these trauma slave narratives is more or less indicative of all black men of that generation, or if it was more or less a percentage of black men that did those behaviors, and we get caught up in these trauma narratives that are perpetuated, which in essence destroy the image of black men. What do you think about what I said?
Well, there's definitely a lot of talk going on about emotional intelligence and that ability to regulate your emotions. And
Right,
listen, I'm one who's going to listen first, and I'm going to do some analysis. You and I,
right.
you started off this conversation by talking about that. We both had some type of careers in law enforcement, and unfortunately, sometimes there are men who can't control their emotions. I'm not going to
That's true.
deny that, right?
That's true. I agree.
When I was breaking up bar fights, when these guys are shooting at each other, that's a lack of emotional control because you stepped in my shoe,
That's right.
because you
Right.
because you were looking at my woman, because you bought my woman a drink, or
Yes,
whatever,
sir.
whatever it is,
Right.
So
Very, very true.
so I am one to listen to that and say, okay, well, how is this translating into women's relationships? Now, at the same time, you have to understand that men are oftentimes been asked to emotionally regulate the woman's emotions.
Right.
And this is where there's a lot of frustration comes in at. Like, what do
Right.
you mean by that?
Hmm.
Okay, so you're out in the field, as you mentioned, working, just as much as we are, working hard as we are. We got your degrees, got your educations, doing, etc. But now, somehow, this onus is on us as men to regulate your emotions. And women
Hmm.
will say this proudly and clearly.
Right.
If
Right.
if you go back and forth with a woman, then that's feminine energy on your part.
Right.
Well,
Right. Right.
well, stop being masculine. I mean, so we got,
Right.
so
Right. Right. Right.
is that
Right.
ever a conversation that
Right.
we're going to have,
Hmm.
or that the ladies need to have amongst themselves?
Hmm.
Stop being masculine. So again,
Hmm.
the onus is on us to somehow be better than them. And my good friend Anita from Better Love Movement says this all the time. She wants a man who's better than them. So I
That's right.
advocate. I
I
advocate
agree.
for the men. I advocate for the men to be better emotionally, physically, financially, in every way, shape, form, and fashion. Be better, because that's what they're saying. Not because
Right.
we
Right.
want to.
Right. Right.
Not
Right.
because we as men have superiority complexes, and I'm sure that there
Hmm.
are some men who have that.
Right. Right.
but
Right.
but I'm saying to be that because this is what they want and this is what they expect. And if they want a leader, a protector, and provider, then be that. So these are
Right.
the type of conversation we have to have, but we have to have them with an understanding that sometimes, for lack of better terms, the ladies are speaking out of both sides of their mouth. They don't know
There,
what they want. They
there
want to
you
be
go.
they
Yes,
want to
sir.
be
Right.
they want to be just as
I totally
equal,
agree.
but you control
Right.
my emotions. I want to
Right.
make just as
Right.
much money, but you pay for all the dates. I mean,
Yes,
this
sir.
this is just nonsense now.
Right, right. You hit it right on the head, man. I call it taxation without representation and the minimization of masculinity. And it's basically masculinity is more or less regulated through their emotional lens instead of men saying, listen, this is what I'm going to be. And if you want to be part of my life, I'm going to show you my blueprint. You can be part of it or you don't have to be part of it. But if you're going to be in my life, this is my blueprint. You can take the bait or you can keep it moving. And if you keep it moving, we're okay with that. But I don't want a woman in my life that does not respect my masculine frame, respect my masculinity. And what I'm seeing, Dr. L, in therapy many times is that a lot of women expect men to be good without them being good themselves. And his masculinity, as I said earlier, is always framed and shaped under her volatile emotions. And so fundamentally, masculine, traditional, heteronormative men are not going to let a woman dictate to them how they operate as a man because a man should be teaching you how to regulate your emotions. That's what your mother and your grandmother and those other women should have taught you. And what I'm seeing is that they're asking men to be emotionally intelligent, but they're not emotionally intelligent. So watch this, because if they were emotionally intelligent, they would know how to read the room. They would know how to assess the situation, and they would use their emotional intelligence to assuage that man so that man can give her the things that she desire and want. But watch this. Many modern women are expecting men, Dr. L, to have emotional intelligence. And one of the things I found very onerous from the young lady, she made some good points. I understood what she was saying. And so I want to be very clear in saying that, but there was a young lady that came on, she's an LCSW like myself. And she said, well, women don't need men finances anymore. You got to give us more. Okay, well, let's look at this. Let's analyze this thing through the lens of masculine forensics. I'm going to call it masculine forensics. Because if that's the case, Dr. L, in my mind, that's an affront to masculinity. Because see, marriage was never about just survival. Back in the day, marriage was about for better or for worse, to death do us part. And so I found it somewhat offensive when women say, well, we make more money now, so we need you more than survival. That lets me know that you were never in it for the right reasons. You were only in it for your selfishness, which in essence, as Solomon says, that nothing outside of self exists. Now, if that's the case, Dr. L, that they're saying we make more money now and we need more, let's look at it. Dr. L has done well in his life. You're a silver fox like myself. You're making more money than you've ever made before. And so if it's not about duty anymore, fine, because it's not about duty if you say I make more money now. So as you get older, if you eat right, work out, your stock as a man is continuing to decline. Your social market value is going up, and also your sexual market value is going up as a man because you're a silver fox. But what we're getting are women that are coming to the table where their social market value is going up, which is their money, but their sexual market value is precipitously declining, meaning she's getting older, she's not a virgin, she got a lot of trauma from the men she's been with, she's been ran through, some of them have, or a lot of them have, and so your sexual market value is declining, but yet my social market value and my sexual market value is rising because men, we earn our value over time. So if that's the case, then as she gets older, then men should say, well, you're not a virgin or beautiful anymore, so therefore I don't need you. So I'm going to get rid of you, just like you said, more or less, you're going to get rid of me. What do you think about what I just said?
So this idea that we are dealing with, escalating and declining sexual marketplace values, that's not really something that I really kind of talk about or traffic in. I'm
Okay,
telling
that's
guys to become, I tell men to become the best versions of themselves and get what you want.
Yes, sir. Right.
Now, what I do appreciate what you said is this idea of the ladies saying that they no longer need us for finances,
Right.
and that they are looking for more emotionally intelligent men, etc.
Right.
So in the conversation that I had with Chandler, I referenced another lady who she had gone back and forth with, and this idea is not going to be something that men are going to sign up for. To be, we're not going to sign up because we want snuggle bears at night. That's just not going to happen.
No, not going to happen.
For a lot of brothers.
Mhm.
Certainly not going to happen for me.
Mhm.
So one thing that I've learned in this particular space, this red pill manosphere space, is that there's a saying that men are in love and women are in business.
Right.
And men need to be in business. And I would assume that men years ago were in business themselves, whether it's on the plains of Africa or before the Industrial Revolution, right? You got the best woman that you could. Yeah, you
Yes,
wanted her
sir.
beautiful.
Yes, sir.
And you made
Right.
that thing work because you needed to have children to
Yes, sir.
work on the farm and
I agree.
raise children for whatever.
I agree.
So this idea that now that they have, through the modern ingenuity and modern inventions, now want something different. Well, that doesn't mean that men have to want something different or want something different. It's certainly not something that I'm looking for. I'm not looking for that type of provider in my life. I'm still looking for something that's very traditional. Maybe I'm still in part of that Generation X. Maybe Generation Z's or A's or whatever they are will be looking for something different in their relationships. But I am not looking for that. So that none of that was appealing to me to say, hey, listen, I make just as much money. Hey, I need you to do this. Well, I mean, I'm a traditional guy. So guys got to figure out where they land in this matrix of ideas that are going on out here and get what's going to work for you.
Right.
And again, if again, I would ask for the ladies who are saying we want, these emotionally intelligent guys and we can make all this different type of money, and we're not looking for men who want legacy. This is almost exactly what Chandler and I talked about, as well as this other young lady talked about, that they wanted that women are no longer looking for men who just want legacy. They ain't going to do it and we know that's not going to do it because these ladies are out here either having kids out of wedlock intentionally or not having children at all. So they're not thinking about future generations. So we as men, again, have to get in business. If you weren't in business, get in business and understand what it's going to be. And the modern landscape has changed and we need to adjust and change with it. hold frame, hold masculinity
Yes,
as we
sir.
go
Right.
about getting
Right.
the things that we want and
Right.
desire.
Right. I agree with you 100%. And I'm going to pair what you were saying about sexual market value and social market value. And I do respect your position. Only thing I would say to add to that is that part of dating, of the dating matrix, that definitely plays a role. I don't think we can nullify that, because if we nullify sexual market value and social market value, then we can say, is that really true dating? Women gonna always look at height, money, phallus, and money earning potential. And so, like you were saying, men need to start doing the same thing. Men need to raise the bar as high as they raise the bar, and say it unapologetically by saying you just don't qualify. And it's okay. Because so many men have not been able to say what they want for the fear of offending her feminine ego. And so men got to say, this is what I want. If you're going to be part of my team, this is what I want. But like you were saying, we're not saying that there are some men that are not emotionally regulated. I had men come at me because they didn't listen to understand. And I think a lot of it, Dr. L, is that for so long, men have never had a voice. And when they do voice their displeasure, when they do voice what they feel and think about what's going on in society, it's through sociological manipulation. I call it social jamming, where they are expected to go back in a corner and be quiet and not say anything. How would you respond to that?
Well, again, this is in particular a black male phenomenon. In particular,
Right.
there's a lot of questions about whether the black community is and has been and will continue to be operated as a matriarchy. And that is something that black men in particular have been denied, that the ability to participate in any form of patriarchy, right? Because
Right.
as we started out with,
Mhm.
we have been held back and deliberately diminished, um, academically, economically, and socially. And so, so there has been this stifling of the promise and the full potential of black males in particular,
Right.
and especially in comparison to the overall dominant community.
Yes.
And I'm teaching a comparative criminology course where we look at how criminal justice is done in other
hmm
places.
hmm hmm
And so I took the last class we started talking about South Africa and looking at so I took the whole class and was talking about how apartheid affected the psychology of the South Africans
hmm
and took them through the whole history. Now, I know they didn't want to hear this. I know they didn't want to hear it, but this is what I'm going. This is what I'm going to do, because it's not just about we just look at modern day police departments. I don't
hmm
do that. When I
hmm
talk about this type of thing, I want to take you through how the modern day police department evolved from former times, former laws, colonization, whatever country we're talking about. So I bring them up to this point. So I spent a lot of time dealing with that. And so what I am often frustrated by is the lack of recognition in our own community as to what has happened to the black men in particular. This idea that black men want to be patriarchs. I mean, black men want to operate the same way that any other man operates in this country.
Exactly.
No more,
I
no
totally agree.
more,
And no
and no
less.
less.
Yes, I
In
totally agree.
particular, no less. And if
Right.
that means that we're seen as negative and this, that, and the other, then I mean, I don't know what else to say about that. Now, there was a good question in here by K Cooper 9
hmm
says, can you show up as a man regardless of what your wallet say? My answer to that is that's up to you as a
Right.
woman. I'm assuming
Right.
that's a woman. I can't really see the
Yeah,
picture.
it's
I'm
it's it's a
assuming.
woman. It's a woman. Yeah.
Right, right. That's up to you. What man who is broke can really show up as a man? Now we know the conversations that Dr. Thunder, I've seen him in here have, and you have had, I've had, is that there's this idea of Pookie and Ray Ray getting to. I'll try to show that I actually have a doctorate here. Sometimes people like, why you talk like that? So there's this idea that these people have access for free, where the good guy who
For
has
sure.
done the right thing,
Right.
went to school, got his education, drives
hmm
trucks, started a business, on his
Right.
grind, working
Right.
16 hours a day, whatever. he has to show up in a different way than someone else.
Right. Selective mating. That's what it is.
Right,
It's
right,
selective
right.
mating.
So,
Right.
so there's and rightfully so. I say this rightfully so that there is a frustration with the good guys who I'm assuming are watching this channel right now,
Right.
both of our channels,
Right.
commenting. Good guys who have their stuff together, have their ish together, and yet when they meet someone, they got to come up, out the pocket and all this other type of thing. And so I believe that Kay Cooper asked the question with the best of intentions,
Right.
saying, "Can you show up in any other way besides your wallet?" Well, that's up to you.
I love that answer. I love that
If I showed up with all this emotional intelligence that you want us to have and these leadership qualities and everything else that you have, but I ain't got no money. I can't ever take you to a restaurant. I can't ever buy you something to eat. I can't ever give you a gift. I can't ever do that because I'm broke.
Right.
I mean, will you take that type of man? That's a question. And again, that's the wrestling that I think that modern day women are wrestling with. And it's up to men. You know, men show up with the amount of masculinity that is really kind of twofold. I have to show up with enough masculinity so that if you and I, Kosher, were in a room, that you know not to challenge me.
Right.
That's how much emotional or masculinity I have to show up with. And second of all, as a result of that, it's going to be a mate selection. That's where masculine, there's a little bit more nuance to that, but I have to show that I can be a protector and provider. So other men won't challenge me, won't try to take my stuff.
Right.
And the ladies will have to select me so I can reproduce my genes.
Right.
And anything lower than that, if I can't protect myself, if you think you can just talk to me all kind of way and punk me down, and women don't look at me and say that, ooh, he's a good man, I want to be with him, then I have failed to show any type of modicum of masculinity. And so that is, and so when ladies say this type of thing, how is that? You have to look at it through those types of lenses. And men also have to do the same thing. When you show up and when we analyze a woman, and we are looking at what level of femininity that they bring. Can they take care of my kids?
Right.
Can they take care of my home?
Right.
That's what we're looking at.
That's what we're looking at. Right. Right.
So to try to say that, okay, well, I as a woman am looking at you at your economic potential, so I want you to look at my economic potential, shows a vast contrast and a disconnect between the mating strategies between men and women.
That's it. And that goes back to what I was saying about that social market value. When the young lady, and I'm gonna pull up the clip that she did in a few minutes. Men don't care about, if you're saying that, okay, if women are saying they're making more money now, so therefore you got to bring emotional intelligence. But what men are saying, that okay, if I bring emotional intelligence, fine, that's a fair exchange. Am I getting feminine virtues, which is nurturing, kind, chase women, no baggage, no kids, and you're not getting that? So it's almost like the bar always rises based on her expectation. But men got to lower their standards to meet her expectation, and that's not true masculinity. I believe that you are the exemplar of your own throne, and you can tell her, listen, this is my kingdom, and you can show her your kingdom, and she got either be part of it or not. I don't have a problem with a woman having standards and a woman saying, I don't like, that's fine. But don't try to shame a man into or shame a man out of his standards for the sake of or using emotional manipulation to make men feel bad. And that's what I see a lot of times, because watch this. I like what you said. You said something a minute ago, and this is what people do a lot of times. You know me and I know you. I know you're an educated man. I'm an educated man. I went to an elite school, but I don't always use the nomenclature of my university. When I'm talking to men, I'm not talking as an academic, even though I can talk as an academic. And every now and then, I'll get jiggy with it. I'm talking as a man when I talk on the microphone. And so a lot of times people would judge you, but he's not a real therapist because he don't do it the way I think he should do it based on these liberal dogmas that we see now. And we know that the therapy profession is highly feminized, it's highly liberal, it's highly tied to social justice politics. They don't believe in traditional heteronormative masculinity. They believe more in egalitarian relationships where it's a partnership. And so what that partnership says is that, Dr. L, you can lead and I can lead, because many come in already afraid because they think that you're going to abuse power. And we know that can happen and that has happened. But watch this. Happy wife, happy life is abusing power. And I love something you said on Tanner's show. You know, we use the slave narratives about women being trapped in relationships in the past. Well, guess what? I love what you said. Men are trapped in relationships now. And so if they really believe in relationship equality, then you should be actively fighting for the same justice for men, just like you're fighting for the justice of women. But you really don't believe in equality. You believe in selective equality, and equality only when it's symmetrical to what women want. And that's why these conversations never have any balance or any hearsay, because it's a one-sided argument, or where the man's masculinity got to be shaped in her pedagogical worldview based on her liberal indoctrination in school, and based on her undisciplined emotions as it relates to being a woman. And so they get mad at these men's spaces because they don't understand, Dr. L, that the manosphere was not an affront to women, but it was a response to the struggles and the pains and the fears and men being silent and men not being heard. And then men begin to speak up. Now, listen, you and I were teenagers back in the 90s. We heard songs, you got to have a job if you want to be with me. I don't want no scrub. A scrub can't get no love from me. I want a roughneck. That's what we heard. Did we not hear that? We heard Sally Jesse Raphael. We heard all the TV pundits of that time castigate and emasculate men, and men ate it. Now, all of a sudden, when men begin to speak, if their addiction is not predicated in the current zeitgeist that we live in, if their worldview or philosophy is not predicated in the current zeitgeist that we live in, then somehow these men are dysregulated or they don't have emotional intelligence. And I will argue to the contrary. When men travel abroad, foreign women had to tell men to sit down and stop trying to do everything, because in foreign countries, the women take care of their men. They cook for their men. They kiss him and rub his head, and they work together because they respect their men. And even though there's a survival mechanism that makes them stay with their men, also it's tied to duty and also tradition, something the black folks had in the past, but we no longer have it. How about you respond to that? And shout out to my man, Top Gun, for that $5 super check. Go ahead, brother.
Yeah, you said a lot there, and listen, to all of that, men have to just respond. You're absolutely right. To this, the manosphere, red spills. I use the term synonymously. I understand that they're not, but I use the term synonymously.
Right.
It's been a response. I'm not looking to dump on anyone or women in particular. I'm not looking to do that. I've often said that this space needs to be professionalized, and fortunately, there are a lot of people who are doing that. We got big discussions here, Dr. Thunder, yourself, educated brothers who are trying to have some decent conversations and trying to get our information out, and that's what it is. You know, I found this space. I found a space two ways. I found it when I was going from at the beginning of my at the end of my master's degree. I was kind of studying psychology, so I'm like, what's going on here with the crime rates, et cetera. And then, when I got divorced, I really kind of started searching around to figure out, what was happening between men and women. And I just wanted to understand this dynamic and phenomenon. And what I found out is that men just have to, as we said, level up. You got to, if their standards are being raised, and it's ironic. And again, this is not to beat women up, but you have to understand that the expectations is to do more. When women are now saying out loud, whether they want this or not is debatable, but they're saying they want an emotionally intelligent man. They're saying that they want a man who's going to help out with the kids, cooking and cleaning, which I don't really have a problem with that. If you're working, she's working 40 hours, you're working 40 hours a week, then help out with the kids and cooking and cleaning and all that. I certainly don't think that takes away from your masculinity. So we're dealing with all that, and at the same time, so they're getting a greater man, a better man, because he's more emotionally intelligent. He's more helpful around the house, and presumably he's making as much or money. Again, this is all debatable as to what makes a man financially viable.
Right.
But at the same time, we're getting a lesser woman, because these women today brag about not being able to cook and clean.
Exactly.
Brag about, okay, I would just hire somebody.
Right.
I just Uber Eats food, or why is that such a big deal? And we get and they, as we kind of talked about before, don't show the same amount of emotional intelligence. Don't understand a man's point of view. Won't do the nurturing items that you talked about, kissing his forehead and this, that, and the other. Won't, So we unfortunately, are getting a lesser quality of woman. And not to mention, as often as talked about, right, the amount of bodies. Now, I don't ask those questions. I don't ask those questions. But the amount of bodies that the ladies are coming with, which comes with trauma. I'm not denying that at all. It comes with trauma. It comes with all this pain. I keep seeing videos about ladies talking about, what's wrong with these men who don't, how dare you not take, a woman with kids, or there's nothing wrong with being a stepfather, or the weight question. Anita from Better Love Movement, Ann Chandler has been addressing that. You're like, what is going on here? Just shaming men for having a preference into what type of woman they're going to allow into their kingdom, as you put it.
Right.
And so this is where we got to come from. So to my mind, we got to hear these conversations. We got to level up, and for whatever we have leveled up to, demand what we want in these relationships.
Well, I'm gonna give you just a little bit of pushback, because that was excellent what you said. You did an excellent job breaking it down, but just a little bit of pushback. And I'm gonna add some nuance to what you're saying. Watch this. Every man don't grow up the same. And so is she not gonna ask you how much money you're gonna make? Yes or no?
She's gonna ask that.
Is she gonna ask you how you're gonna lead her and provide for her and protect her? Yes or no?
I don't know about the leading part. they ain't looking for that no more.
All right. So with all that being said, if she's going to ask you questions about your future, then you have every right to ask her about her past. Now, watch this. We're not saying you ask her on the first date, but as that situation get closer to marriage, I need to know that, because the more men you've been with might impact your ability to pair bond. It might impact your ability to see me as a man. Because see, watch this. The social contract said that you were supposed to have sexual exclusivity. Modern women broke the social contract. And so because they broke it, which is okay, you can't be expecting these high demands from men and expected them to placate to your expectations, because you can't give men what they wanted. You can't get an Asian woman, they got lower fertility and all this baggage, and then you expect a man that's worked hard like yourself and myself. We raised the bar. We caught hell becoming the men that we are, and you giving us less than. And so once again, masculinity is always under the auspices of her emotions, and that's not masculinity in my opinion. True traditional heteronormative masculinity. I'm not talking about these modern men that want partners. If that's what you want, fine, do you. There ain't gonna be no partner in my life, in my family. I'm gonna be the man. I'm gonna love you, protect you, and die for you if I have to. And like how me and my wife operate, we've been together for 30 years. I cut all the grass. My wife ain't never had to cut the grass. I fix the cars. Sometimes I pay to get it fixed. Sometimes I wash my own clothes, but I don't cook. I might do it every now and then, but I don't. And I'm going to tell you why. Women back in the day, Dr. L, had less than, you hear women always say, I keep worshiping my femininity because I got to cook and work. No, sweetie, if you're a feminine woman, you're going to be a feminine woman because you put duty before your feelings. My daddy told me that women of the older generations, not only did they cook, not only did they go work for the white woman or the white man, not only did they work with their husbands in the field, the black man and the black woman were both mules. They worked from sun up to sundown, but guess what? They still had feminine decorum. Because their feminine decorum was not shaped by their emotions. Their feminine decorum was shaped by fear of God, and their feminine decorum was shaped by expectations by the women of that community that were elders. So I'm going to ask about your past if you're going to be my woman. And if you can't tell me, then that's fine. That lets me know that you won't be my woman, because we know they're going to lie about it. So, I'm going to be extreme. You're going to have to take a lie detector test. I got too much to lose. And I know what I want, and you're going to have to meet my expectation. If you can't meet it, that's fine. But I'm going to have to cash you to the wind. Men got to start raising the standards, not for women approval per se, even though there should be a part of it, but men got to start raising the standards for themselves and what they want as it relates to coming into their kingdom. And when we got a generation of boys that have not been raised by traditional masculinity, it's subconscious many times, Dr. L. It's a concept called introjection. It's an ego defense mechanism where they over-identify with women and what women want instead of saying, this is the standard. Because I promise you, your granddaddy and your great-granddaddy would never deal with the type of women that we're seeing now. They wouldn't even look at them. So men got to start determining what they want and drawing the fishnet out and say, look, this is my program. I want to recruit you. Are you ready to come and be part of my kingdom? Because watch this. He that finds a wife finds a good thing, not she that finds a husband. And so women got to start dictating to men what the relationship is. Not against a woman having her standards, not against that at all. I'm not against a woman saying, here are my expectations, not against it. But I'm not going to truncate my masculinity, my masculine virtues for the sake of your emotions and feelings and for the sake of what you say you deserve. And I got to always walk on eggshells to make you happy. I'm not doing that. Neither should any man do that. What do you think about what Dr. Thunder said, Dr. L?
Let me just say first, when I hear ladies talking about resting in their femininity, that's just sheer laziness. It's just sheer laziness. Because again, when we make comparisons to prior to the industrial age, these women were doing all this, right? They don't have to, I mean, we have washing machines now. Nobody's going down to the river and washing clothes or going to get buckets of food. And those women did those types of things because
they did those things. Yeah.
And when you looked at, that was their function. And when you looked at the Proverbs 31 woman, right, she's in the marketplace making deals. She's out there doing stuff.
Right.
So not just to sit home watching soaps or just getting their nails done all day, or getting manis and petties and stuff while the guy's out there slaving and expecting Birkin bags and etc. It's just it's just too many Lifetime movies, too many soap operas going on here, and too many social media influences going on here with that. You had Dr.
I'm sorry, Dr. Thunder. Hold tight. I don't know what he was saying. Basically, let me see if I can find it. I'm sorry. He was basically saying that they'll make headway for the men that they like. If you're a lesser than man.
Oh, I see it. It's pretty straightforward. If they like you, then they'll make excuses for you. If they don't like you, then there's nothing you can do. You're dusty, lame, and etc. Well, I think that's something that men got to wake up to, because we live in this modern society, in this modern mouse utopia that I call it, right? So you got to do more. And so again, as long as there's a social safety net, as long as there's a job for them to work, then they're going to their mating strategies are going to be adjusted accordingly. So you got to adjust yours accordingly. And sometimes that might mean being alone. It might mean going overseas. It might mean, just sugaring or whatever. I mean, you got to choose what's best. You as a man have every right to choose what's best for you, and don't be guilty, shamed into accepting a bad or raw deal. I'm not gonna work myself to death. Right. And listen, these are conversations I've had. I'm not going to be working doubles all the time. I come home and I ain't got no food. I got to come home and I'm working a double and I got to come home and wash my own clothes. Right. No, that's not going to happen.
Man, I agree with you 100%. Top Gun said, we don't meet their standards. They're queens and boss chicks when they don't meet our standards. We're broke, dusty, and down low. And guys, support the channel. Support Dr. L, very intelligent brother. Donate to the channel in this very timely and very important conversation as men are beginning to evolve. Dr. L, I like something about you, man. You begin to be more vocalized lately, and I'm sure you come under some scrutiny because you begin to activate the He-Man gene. And because a lot of times when you do these platforms, if you don't do it under female approval, then you get minimized. What are some of the things you've seen as you begin to, because you've evolved and grown and you're very fair, you're very balanced, and you're very kind, but you've been very straightforward. What have you seen, Doc, about being more vocal? I know you said some people have fallen off, and it's happened to me too. But we can't worry about that. We got to be men. Being men is being apologetic. If you're a traditional masculine man. But what would you say about that?
Well, I think, people sub, they unsub, whatever, but you just got to speak the truth, and call it as I call things as I see it. I'm not one who's going to be stuck as the same person I was a year ago, 5 years ago, etc. I'm constantly evolving, constantly reading, constantly listening to other people. And sometimes my position is going to change. I don't think that it has. Maybe I need to go back and look at it again. Maybe it's saying it in a little bit more of an abrupt manner. I don't know, but I think that I've always told men to level up. Always told men to adjust their standards, to become the best versions of themselves. And if it's hitting differently now, then so be it. But I just think that we're in this place now. We're in almost in a state of emergency in this place.
Right.
I listen to a lot of political stuff, and this situation is going on with Iran.
Mhm.
And what really bothered me the other day was when Marco Rubio said to that Munich conference that he was at. These people are, whether it's going to happen or not, I don't know, but they're talking about lamenting the fact, being sad about the fact, being angry about the fact that these colonial uprisings were the downfall of America and all this other kind of nonsense. So
Mhm.
these people, I said all that to say these people think a certain thing about the Black community.
Mhm.
They think certain things about Black people and
Right.
African people.
Right.
And for us to be at each other's throats, and it's frustrating to me. It's absolutely frustrating to me, because we are on a chopping block of so many different programs. How many 300,000 or so Black females lost their jobs,
Mhm.
and under this president's administration.
Mhm.
And uh, um, and that's frustrating. I lament that. I'm not one who celebrates that.
Right.
Because that's children who won't eat. That's communities who will be downgraded in some way. So I really want people to get together, be together, stay together, and let's get over this divorce kick, and let's get over this idea of situations can't work out, et cetera, et cetera. Am I optimistic about it? I try to be. I mean, maybe I'm just being more pessimistic or realistic about it. But it's frustrating what's going on out here. It's frustrating.
And it is frustrating, but see, this is what I've always said, Doc. To the same women that chided Black folks, these same women that are struggling now basically said years ago they don't need a man, and that they're enjoying their independence now because they no longer need Black men because they can survive on their own. And so I know this is going to be very controversial, but I'm going to say it anyway. Just because your skin color is Black don't mean you're part of my conscious tribe. I'm going to say it again. Just because your skin color is Black, it doesn't mean that you're part of my conscious tribe, because consciousness supersedes skin color. Jesus said, who is my brother? He that does the will of the Father is my brother. So I get it. Survival is what made us one, but we were never one in the motherland. We became one now because we had to. But the problem is when you got women that have been making money and seeing themselves as separate entities outside of Black men, now all of a sudden they are struggling. Now Black men are supposed to be empathetic. And we talk about this oneness, but when you had power, you weren't talking about oneness. But now you're struggling. Now all of a sudden, Black men are supposed to come back and rescue you. No, I don't believe that. I think Black men should have long memories. And the good brothers like yourself and myself have worked hard and done what's right. Those women that were not rocking with Black men when they were on the mountaintop with DEI programs and incentives, I would argue those same Black men should not be trying to save them in their downcline. Only the women that were righteous women that were supporting us as we were on the mountaintop. I don't believe we should just nebulously support somebody because their skin color is Black. Even in Africa, the ethnic conflict that was going on in Africa had nothing to do with skin color. It was about consciousness. And so I just don't fundamentally believe that. Casey Cooper said, Dr. L, I don't want a partner, I want a husband. What do you say about that?
Yeah, I think that she is demonstrating that she understands exactly what we're saying. She wants a masculine man. And her previous question, I'm kind of reading her comments there. She was saying that she would take a $30,000 man over a millionaire who was abusive, and I don't have a problem with that. I mean, again, this is what the ladies have to pick and be happy and satisfied with it.
Right.
And if that man only has $30,000 a year and that is his potential, then you have to be happy with that. And so again, if he's shown up in certain other ways, he can fix things around the house. He can take control. He's very protective, as you mentioned. He cuts the grass and he takes care of the car. Why would you not? If you got the money, why would you not, as a woman, take that type of guy versus an abusive guy or a bum who has no nothing to offer? So I applaud sisters who think like that, who think like, I want someone who's going to operate in his role, and whatever it is. A big thing is that a lot of ladies, I think, are really struggling with their biology. They want to be this, they want to be these boss chicks at work, but they want to come home, which
Right.
is always frustrating. And I hear the ladies when they say it,
Right.
and they say they want to come home and just and no longer be the boss and just cuddle up and be the sweet little puppy dog, and let him take over and let him do everything. I'm not a woman. I just can't imagine that. I just can't imagine being bossy at work and this, that, and the other. Get these papers and get these deliverables into me on time, and then come home and just want to sit back and let the guy do everything. Okay. If that's what they say, that's what they say. But I applaud any woman who says, hey, listen, this is the way I want to move. And as long as you're honest about it with yourself and you can actually move that way and won't get frustrated in 3 to 5 years because he can't take you out or because he can't, hold his own to the level that you can, then that's on them.
Yali 2511 said, I cook and clean and do laundry. A little help won't hurt, but I see it's my duty to perform those functions. But then again, I'm not American. And listen, Yali might be Jamaican, I believe. But
yeah, this is a Western problem, man.
It's a Western problem. Yeah, I'm not saying it's not going into it's going overseas too. But let me tell you something about that.
BGS Ibmore just did a
Right.
couple of videos about that, talking about how
Right.
it's spreading in Africa now. So
It's spreading, right. But even though it's not as concentrated in other countries, man, if you're paying bills and whatnot, that woman said, babe, I got it. They'll tell you, get out of the kitchen. I'm gonna handle this. They don't see it as less than, because that was just a normal functioning of a relationship. That, actually that's a form of emotional intelligence, knowing how to cook a meal to speak life into a man. But these women, they ain't trying to cook no meal. Cardi B says she don't cook and she don't clean. Yeah, but yeah, she got 4 babies by 2 baby daddies, man.
well, there's also videos of her doing that exact thing. So she was capping.
Oh, she was capping.
Yeah.
Oh, she was capping. She was capping.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. So listen. One thing I love about Dr. L, me and Dr. L ain't gonna agree with everything. He probably agreed with what I said a minute ago, and that's okay. but at the end of the day, men gotta raise the bar for themselves and their masculinity. I'm a firm believer, Dr. L, when men raise the standard, the right woman will come, and those that are not right will fall off. What do you say about that?
Repeat that again. Repeat that.
I said when men raise the standards as it relates to their masculinity, the right women will come, and the other ones will fall off. And you got a super chat, Dr. L, real quick. I'll let you read it.
I don't think we have to be together. I don't think we have to be together. However, us not being together is not a reason to abandon sticking up for the ideals of the Black community. So again, what does that look like going for the future? Is that the Black community will eventually fade away in some way? Because if we're not together, and how are we going to uphold those standards and values if we're marrying out? And I'm not saying this is good or bad. I'm just saying we got to be realistic about what this means. And personally, I mean, there's some crazy stuff that goes on, but I like my community, right? I like the food that we eat. I like how we celebrate Thanksgiving and all that. I like it,
Mm-hmm.
So there's some things I don't want to go away. And I've dated outside of my race, and I've some very, very nice ladies of other cultures, and they're playing music and stuff in the kitchen when they're cooking. I'm like, I don't want to hear that.
You raise a salad. Raise a salad.
so listen, and whether I would do it again, I don't know, but you got to be open to that. You got to be open to that. So there's some things about it that we like. So yeah, I definitely understand that we don't have to be together, and you certainly don't have to be frustrated. You don't have to put yourself into any situation where you can't be yourself. And I think this was to your question there about well, what was your question? You asked a really good question. I want to make sure I commented on that.
So what I was saying, Dr. L, is that we raise the standard. The right women that want to be part of our kingdom will hop on, and the ones that are not right, they're going to fall off. I said, how would you respond to that? And you got a super chat, and I got 2 cash apps I'm going to read out in a minute. Go ahead.
Yeah, I see that, Micah Malice. I have a dishwasher, dryer, washer, robot, vacuum, electric steam cleaner, 2 sets of grandparents that live 15 minutes away. They said my wife is working. So you got it all done, and so therefore, again, you don't need that.
You don't need that, right?
So that was the $5 from Micah Malice. I do appreciate that. And the other one that I read was from Sir Lavo. That $5 was from him as well. I don't think we need to be together. So forgive me for mixing those up. Yeah. So listen, to the idea, men have to hold their ground. Here is. Let me go back to this weight conversation here, because this keeps coming up. Taylor Chandler's got to address it. Anita's addressed it.
Right.
Anita's my buddy. I text her all the time. And this weight question. Black men have been called the garbage men of the dating world.
We have,
because we just accepted anything. And the reason that we accept
anything.
the reason that we accepted everything is because of our limited access to moving out the country, limited access to different types of women. So therefore, our women became mean for various reasons. And then just like, okay, well, take us with our weight, take us with our kids and our bad attitudes, and we'll throw a blonde wig on our head, and you got to take us like that too. So now men are saying, okay, we don't want that. Men are doing better. We've got statistics about how many men are in the middle class and how men are moving up and this, that, and the other. So we're saying we don't want to live like that. We don't want to be like that. So men got to hold the ground. So if a woman really wants to be in your life, in your corner, on your side, get on your program, then she's going to get on it. And if that means she's got to lose the weight, she's going to lose it.
She's going to lose the weight. Right.
If that means that she understands that she can't bring a bunch of kids to a successful man, then she's not going to bring them to him. And particularly if they cut off any other type of financial assistance, right?
Right.
So you hold your ground, and as Sir Lavo said with his $5 super chat, he said, we don't have to be together, right? And even to Micah Malice's point, right? If I got everything covered, I got a steam cleaner and I got a dishwasher and all this other type of stuff, I can cook my own food. I'm gonna hold out to get exactly what I want.
I'm gonna hold out.
Yes, sir. And that is what men should do.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Hold your ground.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I agree with you 100. We got to hold the line, because listen, until we raise the bar, they won't raise the bar. And listen, men are already not checking in when it comes down to dating and relationships. They're already not going to group meetings or group meetups. They're checking out. And you're not going to tell a masculine man how to run this program. Either you're going to be part of it or you're going to be left behind. Shout out to my man Ray Johnson for that 30, as he's the #1 sponsor. And shout out also to Revelated Spirit of Indifference. So once again, shout out to brother Ray Johnson, as he is the #1 sponsor. Ray Johnson always showing love. Shout out to brother Ray Johnson.
It's the money.
That's my dog, brother Ray Johnson, all the way from the West Coast. Nothing but love and support, man. Always showing me love, man. Him and Top Gun and all the brothers. And I think what you're saying is true. Let me tell you something, Dr. L, what I've learned. And you tell me what you think about this. I agree with you 100%. Black men never had any power. That's why when people, some of these black women get encapsulated with this nebulous thinking that black men somehow were patriarchs and, we conspire with white rich oligarchs to impose sanctions on their freedom. I got a problem with that nonsense, because it's not based in reality. And I used to think the first wave and second wave feminism was applicable, but when I did the research on it, it was all rebellion, and it's also occultic. And so I don't believe in it, because what it does, it undermines the efficacy of black men. It undermines the efficacy of him being the leader in the home. And what I've learned, Dr. L, and tell me what you think, women say one thing, what they want, but they really don't know what they want. And so I'm not going to let a woman dictate my trajectory as a man. I'm going to hold the line. This is what I expect, and you can either be part of it or not. I ain't mad at you. I ain't going to call you out of your name. You can go in and live your life and dictate to the next simp how you're going to run his program. But a woman's not going to run my program. I don't care if I make 6 figures or less than 6 figures, because even though part of my masculinity is the ability to make money, the essence of my masculinity is not always money. Because watch this, Dr. L. I did a show where I said I disagree with Kevin Samuels saying men should pay all bills. And I'm going to tell you why I say I disagree with that. Because the social contract years ago, and I'm going to bring this little clip up, meant that women had to be virgins, wife ready, no kids, and they were trained and taught to be wise. So if that's the case, if people say, well, you got more leverage because you got money, not in this American system, you don't have any leverage. Because let's say, Dr. L, you lost your job and you couldn't get a job in 2 years. Is she still going to love you? Is she going to still be in it for better or for worse in duty? Or now your masculinity has been reduced because you can no longer perform? If that's the case, then as she's getting older, if she's becoming more infertile, and if she can't produce any kids, then you should say the same thing. I have no more need for you because you don't. The things I want as a man has been greatly diminished, and therefore I'm gonna cast you to the side. What do you think about what I just said?
Again, men are just got to hold the ground, and this idea that masculinity is tied into finances, I don't know how you separate that. Now, be I would be this goes back to you're a Christian man, and Doc Thunder's in the house.
Right. Yeah.
You guys
Doc's
are
in the house, no
Christian
doubt.
men, right?
Mhm.
What's that scripture? It says it like 3 times in the book of Proverbs. Better to be in the wilderness or be in the rooftop than to dwell in the house with a
Right. Right.
contentious woman. So
Contentious woman. Right.
I would rather be by myself. I would rather be by myself
Yes.
than to be miserable
Hmm.
with a woman who's not on my program, with a woman who's arguing with me, who is a woman who's degrading me, emasculating me because of my earning potential.
Hmm.
And that's just the way that I would move.
Hmm.
So I could provide all this emotional care and all this other types of things,
Right.
but eventually it's going to come down to money. I mean, we live in the U.S. I
Hmm.
mean, and I listen. I mean, I do all right. I do all right for a single guy. I do all
Hmm.
right.
Hmm.
But it's going to come down to money, and to try to separate that. People say it, and as you mentioned before, there's a difference between what the ladies are saying and what they'll do in practice.
Right.
Eventually, I mean, because it takes a rare woman. Let me put it like this: it takes a
Hmm.
rare woman to really kind of hold to that, where the man's finances don't matter,
Hmm.
and you're continually sexually attracted to him. You're
Right.
continually you want to sleep with this guy, whatever the average is, twice a week. You want to do those types of things. You enjoy him. You're proud to bring him around your friends to family functions, to a job function, Christmas parties, or whatever's coming up. You're proud to do those types of things. You're proud to do those types of things with this particular type of man in the financial status that he's at. And
Hmm.
it's far too what social media has revealed is that a lot of women are really looking for social status as well. I mean, we always knew that, but it's becoming more evident now that social status means something. You got to be able
Right.
to fly me certain places, right?
Hmm.
They don't want the truck driver; they
Hmm.
want the lawyer,
Hmm.
which is and the truck driver could be making 200K a year, if
Right.
if he does his stuff right. So it's revealing a lot of that. So what they're saying, what they're showing is something different. Again, men, you gotta get the woman that's going to be best for you. Do a good job vetting. Be yourself. Know what your limits are. Don't become emasculated. Don't allow anyone to emasculate you, and just move with integrity and move with wisdom. And those are my recommendations.
Shout out to my man Justin Moore for that $5 super chat. Listening in Denver, Colorado. Thank you, brother Justin. Um, Dr. Thunder said, pining after the white man's patriarchy. Pining after the white man's patriarchy. I'm going to show you this clip. I thought you and Chandler Taylor did a great job. You did a great job breaking this down, man. And like I said, man, I was impressed with your candor and your stick to itness. Hold tight.
Or analyzed and scrutinized under the lens of female validation? Does her feelings shape his masculinity, or the opposite?
I wonder, and I think this is maybe it's kind of linked into what we're going to talk about with these other clips as well. But do you have any ideas about how this is going to? I have two questions. How do you think this might be reconciled? And what's your forecast? What's your prediction for how this is how this is going to play out in the near future?
So my forecast is that it's not going to work with the masculine men, because that is not something that I'm looking for in a relationship. Now, certainly, it would be nice if I walked into my house and my wife greeted me, "Oh, baby, I missed you," this, that, and the other. That would be great. I'm not saying that men don't want any type, or certainly myself don't want any type of emotional connection. That I think that's certainly necessary. But as far as marriage and intertwining, and when we talk about marriage, I'm assuming we're talking about intertwining our lives with the state. And so you're not going to get a lot of masculine men to sign up for that.
I thought what you said there, Doc, was highly profound, and I do agree with you. I'm going through a situation with a young man right now. He's going through divorce. He's greatly distraught. He can't see his boys. She's got all on social media trying to denigrate him. he thought by being a good man, these women say, I want a man that's emotional. He gave her everything that she thought she wanted, and she still divorced him. And, I felt so sorry for the guy, man, because you could see the hopelessness in his eyes. And, when men are isolated, they're more prone to suicidal ideation and also homicidal ideation as well. But I thought you did a phenomenal job, Doc, breaking that down. And also, you said some about they always talk about women being trapped. Well, you said men are trapped. Once you get married to the state, she decided to close them legs. Ain't nothing you can do about it unless you get you some on the side or a plan to get rid of her at some point. So men become trapped. The same trappings that they accused granddaddy of back in the day, whether it's right or wrong, men are now trapped in relationships where I just talked with a client today. He gets sex once every 2 months. Once, Doc, every 2 months, but still is expected to pay bills and be a protector. I want you to add to that.
If that's not a trap, then what's the definition of a trap?
Exactly.
I mean, and listen, I'm sure that you saw it you see it all the time when people come to you with various frustrations about what's going on in their marriages. I saw it as a police officer. I went to people's houses and saw them, people living in separate bedrooms. I saw numerous people. Right, these guys are crying, telling us, "I haven't touched my wife in 20 years. I haven't touched my kid's about to graduate from high school. I haven't touched her since the kid was born." I'm like, "What is going on here?"
Yep.
So I couldn't understand it. So in these, I heard this multiple times from multiple different people. When we're interacting with them. So this is a phenomenon that again, I can't. Shout out to Taylor because I know she asked the question with the best of intentions, and she's doing some great work and really trying to give the male perspective and trying to be fair and balanced as we
She is. Shout out to her. Yes,
as we have already acknowledged.
Right.
But for a man my age, and I said over 45, who has kids, my kids are grown. My kid and I have my own home, car, 401k, doing okay, living a good middle class lifestyle. What do I need to entangle the state for in my relationship?
Right. I agree.
It's almost counterproductive.
Right. And then on top of that, some of these women want you to pay all the bills, but they're not young or fertile women. But then on top of that, you might have to give some of your assets to their kids. And I know you don't want to. Yeah, go ahead.
Listen,
go ahead, Doc.
The whole thing is just a trap, a scheme to get men to get in and to buy into this craziness that is going on here. And there's no way that a man who has anything to lose should really sign up for that. And I'm not saying
I totally agree.
not be monogamous. I'm saying to be, I don't want diseases, but to married men, you're currently married, and I'm assuming the other brothers in here have been married. Listen, can we be frank? Can we be blunt? I got married to have sex.
Yes,
I didn't get married to be a monk, right? So once a month, once every other month. Right. I was on vacation one time.
Once every 2 months.
Listen, I've heard worse than that. Right. I was on vacation one time, and this brother, white dude starts talking to me and this, that, and the other. Sitting at the bar, and he's telling me that he was another one. Just didn't touch his wife. She just didn't. It wasn't a physical thing. She just didn't like that. She didn't like it mentally. She didn't like it psychologically. Being heard and penetrated, and somebody sweating on her and whatever. Right. She didn't like it. But he stayed because he had 1 or 2 kids with her. And so he was just in this situation. Right. So why would a man who has been either through something like that or has something to lose take that chance again doing that? And and I had shout out to the lead attorney. We had a long conversation about this. You can go over my channel and watch it. And he tried to convince me about, the prenups and this, that. I'm like, listen, to me, it makes no sense to get a contract being a prenup to negate the original contract of the marriage license. Why not? Why states don't just change the marriage contract. China did it.
Right.
Why don't they just do that?
Right.
And so you would probably get a lot more men who would be talking about marriage, interested in marriage, because they know that if something happens, I get to keep everything. It makes sense to me. So yeah, but this idea about potentially having to give up stuff and pay for people's kids and this and that. And listen, I did the stepfather thing. Somebody wrote in here, was a proud stepfather of five kids. I don't know if he's trolling or not, but somebody wrote that.
He's trolling.
But I can tell you right now, I did the stepfather, and listen, I'm still cool with my stepkids. I mean, I did it. But what I tell my kids, my son, or even my stepkids to do that, no, I would tell them not to do it. I would tell them not to do it.
Oh, I totally agree. And if I had a son, I would tell him the same thing. If you close them legs, I'm gonna close my wallet. I'm gonna close that wallet. I'm gonna close it. When you say, "Well, Ken, you gonna pay this bill?" No, my wallet got a headache. The light bill needs to be paid. I'm sorry, boo. My wallet got erectile dysfunction. I'm not paying nothing. And at some point, I'm gonna get me some cat from somewhere else until I get rid of you. And I know that sounds controversial, but here's why I'll say this. And let me take that back. Being a godly man, I'm gonna strive not to. But I've been damn, I'm gonna be in a marriage for 20 years. I had a white guy that I met at the bar, Dr. L, similar to your story. And he was so exacerbated about, he was married. He hadn't had sex with his wife in 20 years. And he was afraid to tell her I wanted a divorce, to the point he just cried. And she coldly said, "Okay, I'll give you a divorce." I had a black gentleman. Saw his wife at the airport when I was taking my dad to Puerto Rico. He was a shell of a man. Not understand that men need sex to function. That's part of their masculinity. He said it was 9 years. So watch this. The scripture talks about the 3 times when divorce can happen: adultery, abandonment, and death. I will argue, Dr. L, theoretically, if a woman chooses not to be intimate with her husband, she's abandoned that relationship and she's rebellious. Therefore, that man has a right to leave and get rid of her. Now, some men say, "I'm gonna stay for kids." No, I'm not staying for no kids. I'm not staying no married for no kids. I'm not doing that, because kids now, once they get older, they ain't like kids years ago. Men got to stop taking these altruistic standards for the sake of the team. We're not doing that no more. The times have changed. They're living their lives and being liberated. Men got to start doing what's best for them and do it unapologetically, without shame or fear. And you know how daunting that is, man, to, like old broken simp, to be paying bills and she telling you how to run the relationship because she don't feel like it. So guess what? Yeah, my wallet don't feel like it. Oh, baby, there's a rat in the house. Yeah, well, we partners, so you go get the rat. Baby, the tire was broke. The tire fell off while we was on the road. Okay, partner, handle that. We partners. We equal. So you handle that. Because what I'm saying, Dr. L, is that they want a partnership when it comes down to power, right? But they want a husband when it comes down to traditional duties. And men got to say, "Nah, we're not doing that no more. We're going to do it my way, being the leader." It won't mean that you don't have any input. It doesn't mean that sometimes I don't defer to you. It doesn't mean that I don't listen to your position. It doesn't mean that. Sometimes I'm going to defer and say, "Okay, babe, I like that." But at the end of the day, all roads run through Rome. And if we can't do that, that's fine. Because let me tell you something, what I've learned, Dr. L. There are women in foreign countries that would die to be with a man like you. And I jokingly told you, Dr. L, you from Connecticut. You will be a 5-star recruit in some other countries. There will be women that would die to be with Dr. L. They will be grateful to be with Dr. L. You 5'8", I'm 6'5", 6'6". Now, 5'8" is considered to be tall in a lot of countries. Me being 6'6", I'm a giant. But we both got that salt and pepper swag. We're both a mature, seasoned Gen X men. There were women that would die to be with you. They will wash your dirty feet and probably drink your dirty bath water and cook you a meal and tell you to go sit down. And like that song back in the day said, "I'm gonna put you to bed," and they're gonna put you to bed. And you ain't gotta be stressed out. But men settle because they don't know what their worth is. And they tolerate because they don't know what their worth is. And they are afraid to say, "This is my standard." And either you're gonna be down or I'm not. And I'm okay with it. If you ain't gonna be down, I'm just gonna have to level up and get rid of you until you do. AJC from 33, Dr. L, sent that to you. And
AJC, brother was on a podcast the other day, man. Appreciate this, brother, man. We had a good conversation about leadership and about black folks in positions of authority. So y'all go over there and take a listen to that.
Yeah.
Good
Go
show.
ahead. Go ahead. Yeah. Shout out to that brother. I'm gonna show you something, Dr. L. I want you to break this down using your forensics, your masculine forensics.
By the way, man, I don't need nobody to drink my dirty bath water. That's a little bit too much.
I know, man, but they'll do it. I was listening to this young lady that was on. She's an LCSW like me, Vernique Esther. She was on Chandler Taylor's show. There was some truth to what she was saying. There's some truth to what this young lady said. But also, most women now that go to school, their worldview is shaped through social justice politics, and their worldview is shaped through egalitarian relationships, and that doesn't resonate with masculine men. And it's no disrespect to the young lady; she has some valid points because there are some overly emotional men. But I think these men are emotional because they haven't got their needs met. I want you to tell me what you think about what she's saying, and we'll break this down. Hold tight.
The market is geared towards this thing. Now, do black women have ways to move? Yes. My primary demographic in my private practice is black women, especially black Christian women.
Hold tight.
And I deal with them on socialization, better partners, setting better boundaries, and being willing to go without until your needs, desires, and standards are met. I work with women on taking accountability for their love lives. I have social proof of that accountability. I even posted them all in my stories. I have a whole series called Good Christian Woman, how good Christian women show up in the world, and talking about how you guys need to untangle yourself from some of this ideology and religiosity. But when I get into spaces like that, that is not enough. I have to tell black women that they are terrible choosers. They're nothing more than baby mamas. They're harlots. They don't want to be anything other than fat. I have to say that, even though they're not the main factors driving what's happening in the dating market, it is a two-handed issue. The other thing I found is that when I told men that they were also failing in the marriage market, they did not want to take responsibility for that, which I found odd because they are the kings of accountability. They didn't want to take accountability for their failures in the marriage market. Black women get married at 27%. Black men get married at 34%.
All right, so this part of what she's saying, we're going to get back to it. What do you think about what she's saying thus far, Doc?
So I actually shout out to this sister here because I actually reached out to her because she's one of the people that were going back and forth with Taylor. So I reached out to her. We had a pretty good DM conversation. Ultimately, she refused to come on the show because she doesn't like this space, and she thought that I would give her an unfair shot. But again, I respect her for telling me that, and if she ever watches this or whatever, if she changes her mind, she's more than welcome to come on. I really do think that she's doing a good job, and I told her that in her DMs. But so to the idea that this is what men are expected to hear. Men just want to hear the truth.
Right.
If the ladies are overweight, if the ladies are messing up, then tell them the truth about that. And if they're fat, if they're overweight, then tell them the truth about it so they can fix some ideas.
Man,
about
you can't tell these chicks the truth, Dr. L. Come on, man. you can listen. I don't have no issue with this young lady. Shout out to her. She's a fellow clinician like myself. I'm not here to chide her. I promise you I'm not. But this concept that black men, maybe it sounds like she's saying that black men are failing because they're not marrying black women, but are black men not marrying black women because they don't want to marry black women? Or are black men saying we're not marrying black women because those black women made a bunch of bad choices and average invisible men that would have gave them a chance? Now they're overweight, they're broken psychologically to dealing with bad men, and now you want those men to come and marry those women. And so I don't think it's okay. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, she's definitely making that connection that the marriage rate between black or the marriage percentages of black women is 27% roughly, and the marriage rate for men is 35% or whatever the exact numbers are. But that's in comparison to the overall community, overall average of all Americans. The average average rate is 48%. So you're talking about F's, failings. This is we're all failing.
We all fail.
So the only ones that are really, really doing well in that market is Asians, East Asians or Chinese or
yes, sir. That's right. That's right.
Or the Indians or married at 80 and 90%. So we got to, if you're going to measure yourself against them, then we're all failing. Now,
Your
you
own
brought up
family,
a good
right?
point as to what is going on between us. What is going on between us? Well, there's a lot of things that are going on between us. As we talked about at the beginning of the broadcast, is number one is the idea about what happened to black men. By the way, another doctor, Dr. Diane Stewart, laid out beautifully in her book, probably one of the best books I ever read about this subject, is about what happened to black men and how economically viable we have been handicapped. So you got to take a look at that. Number one. Number two, we got the modern era about what men are seeing in what happens to men through via divorce, whether it's through child support, alimony, or just loss of just the loss of assets. Nobody wants to buy a house, live with somebody for 20 years and have to sell it, or 10 years and have to sell it. Nobody wants to do that. So again, we got to take a look at all this type of thing. So as respectable as I can be to this young sister, the conversation was about women. Let's talk about women. Let's talk about what. And so when you start with this whataboutism about men, men are going to address what they need to address. And if men are saying, men for the first time, all men are in comparison to women saying we want to be married more than our female counterparts. And men are willing to get on an airplane, move to another place, either bring another woman back here or move over there to be with a woman permanently.
Right.
So that shows you that men want to be married. And not to mention how many men simply can't find a good woman here. How many men? Now this is difficult, right? When you start breaking down all these numbers, that's why I don't do it a lot, because it gets murky. How many men want to be married? How many men are straight? How many men? That needs to be. I mean, shout out to Kevin Samuels, but when he used to say 54% of men don't have
single and childless,
single and childless. Well, how many of those men are straight and want to have a family? 61% are in the middle class. Again, same questions. How many men want to be? So I did have an issue with those types of numbers. But if we are looking at, if we walk down the street, if we go to a gym, to a bar, to a cigar lounge, to Top Golf, to a sporting event, to you name the place where good, upstanding men are met, how many of those men can look across the aisle, look across and see women who they would want to be with, given their attitudes, given their weight, given their fake hair, nails, and everything else, or how many children they bring? So how do we crunch all these different numbers and get to where we can meet, where a good guy can meet a good woman? And I guarantee you, I promise you, of all the men who are dating out, I promise you that if they would see in their cohort, in their area, more women who were nice, kind, friendly, fit, feminine, friendly, if they could meet these women, they would much rather date them and be with them rather than go overseas or date Becky with the good hair. That's just my.
I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. And this is no, I respect the young lady's position, so I'm not here to castigate her at all. But that's why I said when they saying that women make their own money, I took offense to that, because basically you're minimizing a man's masculinity. And see, what happens a lot of times, Dr. L, you can't say you're a Christian woman and you're a Christian feminist. Kevin Samuels used to talk about that, and it's true. You can't be a Christian woman to be a feminist at the same time. They're both incompatible, because feminism at its core is about, in my opinion, well, it's not even my opinion, it's about being equal to a man, which women are not equal to men when it comes down to biology and psychology. We are equal in humanity, but it's about them getting out of order, because now, Dr. L, when women get married, they no longer say honor and obey. And I'm going to show you a clip of that. But they're not going to say honor and obey no more. They're not going to obey no man, but they still want all the accoutrements of a traditional relationship. That's what they want. And, I love how you preface it by saying traditional masculine men. They're just not going to tolerate it. Hold tight.
The only thing that accounts for that 7% difference at large is the fact that black men are not as race loyal as black women, meaning they will date white and Latina women by and like more than black women date outside of their races.
That sounds like a colorism standard. I don't think that's the case. I think
it's not the case. And listen, the only reason the men are no longer as race loyal is because we were locked in before, we were not locked in anymore. Ladies have been black women have been sleeping with white men for forever.
Yes, sir.
But they just haven't been getting married to them, and that's the fault of the men. And so,
That's right. That is so true. Very true,
so
brother.
so we
Very
have to
true.
we have to be honest about these. We have to be honest about these conversations. And
Right.
I don't say this to be braggadocious. I don't
Right.
say this to put the our black women down. I don't say that for anything like that, but I'm just saying we have to be honest about this. And that what she's doing right here with the best of intentions, I believe, but she's just not being honest and understanding why the situations where they were what they are. I guarantee if a bunch of white dudes just came on and came up with wedding rings, marrying black women left and right, a lot of black women would jump on the train.
They would jump on the train, man. And a lot of this mess, this colorism mess, is tied to projecting, in my opinion, of dark-skinned women not being as attractive. So they projecting their view of themselves as it relates to internalized insecurity. It's a projection of internalized insecurity, and a lot of times, I think she's an attractive young lady, but dark-skinned women tend to project that. And we gotta get tired of these dumb talk, these crazy talking tropes, man. Because that's what the debate that Dr. Chiaku was trying to say, Dr. L, when she was on your show, that black men are not marrying us, and that's not the true case. A lot of these women had opportunities to marry equitable black men, but because they are slaves to the hypergamous nature, it's no different than what the guy said back in the 80s. James Ingram said, I gave my best, but my best was never good enough. And so it's not because they can't get married, they just don't want to marry average men. How would you respond to that?
Yeah, well, I think that when we take a look at the 1960s, when what was I forget the number off the top of my head, 70-80% of black women were married, and then post 1965 that number falls off the cliff, not only with getting married rates but also divorce rates spike up. You got to take a look at, we got to be honest about that and have a valid response to that. So and I just don't think that I think that we're missing each other, right? Because she's an educated woman, she's a smart woman, but the data may say something, but their interpretation of that data means something differently. Right. And again, that's what I wanted to have a conversation with her about, is how are we looking at this? How do we have a conversation about having the conversation? How can we look at the situations that we're dealing with and then come up with two totally different things? And listen, I asked the same question to Dr. Diane Stewart when she was on my show. I said to her, okay, what happened post 1965 and all this? And it's on the YouTube. It's on the YouTube. She said she didn't know. So we can't put it together.
Right. What happened post 1965? Right.
How come all the black PhDs,
right.
How come all the black male PhDs can put this together and be like, okay, well, this is what happened. Feminism, women bossing up and attitudes and this, and that, and the other. But the sisters out there don't seem to be able to say that. And again,
exactly.
she started this conversation. She started this conversation in response to Taylor Chandler's conversation about weight. Again, it showed a lack of accountability.
Right.
If men, the more success, and Taylor Chandler was absolutely right about this, the more successful a man is, the thinner he wants his woman to be.
She's correct. Taylor's correct.
The less successful, he'll take whatever.
He'll take whatever.
So she came on pushing back against that. Well, it's about men. You guys are not race loyal. Okay, you're not hearing what we're saying.
Right. Well, that's an internalized response to her projecting how she see herself, and it has nothing to do with race loyalty. You'll never convince me that this woman have not had an opportunity to get a decent man in college. You'll never convince me of that. You'll never convince me of that.
She's in a relationship now. I didn't.
Okay.
She said this on her show, so I don't know.
Okay.
How deep they are, or his race or whatever. But I just want to deal with the I want to deal with the arguments about what she's saying, and the arguments are that it's men's fault. It's always Jermaine's fault.
It's always Jermaine's fault. Right.
It's always Jermaine's fault.
The Eve complex. Yeah.
So we just got to be honest. And if we're gonna have the conversation about women full-fledged from the beginning of the show to the end of the show, let's just talk about the women, what they need to do. If you want to have a conversation about what men need to do, let's have the conversation without the whataboutisms. Let's do that.
Right. I love what you said, man. And I'm gonna prove it to you, because you hit it right on. And I'm gonna finish playing her, and then I'm gonna prove to you what happened, why the social contract was broken and violated. And if women are saying that okay, they make as much money as men, and therefore they got to bring emotional intelligence. And when men need to pair that by saying, okay, am I getting virtuous women that are virgins, low bodies, no kids, no deletions, and that are not fat? And that's where things get quiet. So hold tight.
The gag about that is black men, white women marriages have a higher divorce rate than just about any other marriage. Black women and white men have a higher success rate.
So that's that pushing that swirling narrative. Somehow you on that backhanded compliment throwing brothers under the bus, pushing that swirling narrative. Go ahead, Doc.
Somebody else just sent me this, and I got to do this because somebody else just sent me this in the email the other day, and I forgot that she said this. So I have to include this. I'm going to do a video about this, and a media man has addressed this, and I'm like, man, how many times we got to keep talking about this? These numbers are old. These numbers are old from like 2002 or so, and it was people who had been married at that time for 10 and 15 years. So you can't keep giving up this old information. So again, more people are getting married today, and all marriages, the divorce rates are going down. So these are things we got to look at in modern times. And again, as Media Man did a fantastic job of pointing out these numbers concerning the marriage rates, success rates, and the attitude and the philosophy of the time that the people are living in at that time, right? You got married if you got divorced in 2000. The year 2000, and you got married in 1990, it was a vastly different thought process about interracial relationships, right? You can look at survey data and see how many people, what people thought about interracial relationships in the 1950s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. And in comparison, 2026, you take a survey today about what people think about interracial relationships, it'll be extremely high. Well, unless you live in the South. So all these considerations got to be taken into account. And I wish that she and others would just take this into account. And again, I have to do a longer video about this to kind of break
well, like I said earlier, Doc, and if you were listening, they can't do it because their worldview about traditional relationships is shaped by social justice politics, and is shaped by wokeness, and is shaped by liberal feminist intersectionalist indoctrination. So it's not going to be shaped from a heteronormative worldview. It's going to be shaped based on white liberals and how they see the world, and they take in that indoctrination, and they frame their pedagogical framework based on that. That's why when women that are academics, I could think outside of my pedagogy. I went to an elite school, but I'm a free thinker. I don't think like the masses. I think like me, and I make my own logical decision. And most of them, they can't do it. Go ahead.
I also saw a recent stat. I think this goes to Prime VA 75. He said, "Here we go about the lying IR divorce rates, et cetera, et cetera." So I read a stat, and again, I'm gonna put this in the video that I saw. I need to verify some stuff here, but I saw a stat that said that black men with Asian women are now becoming some of the longest and most successful marriages.
Yeah. I didn't know about that. Well,
yeah.
That's
So because of Filipinos, etc. So that's something I got to dig into a little bit more. So just make sure I'm correct in that. But that is a stat that I saw. So again, these stats are always changing. Things are always evolving. So we got to keep up with the current data. So,
well, listen, Doc. When it comes down to getting cornbread, it ain't not like some Asian cornbread, because these modern women now, they want to steal your cornbread. Hold on.
Hey, girl, you gonna eat your cornbread?
Don't say nothing. You talking to me? Yeah, I think you're talking to you.
腰はひねって S 字型。
I saw you back there. Look, you shook your boots out. You shook your boots down the air when you saw that feminine woman, man. And listen, man. I'll talk to some of my boys, man. Thai, Philippines, Korean, man. I heard they love. Of course, there's racism in those countries, but they love chocolate, man. They love chocolate men, man. And a man like yourself, Dr. L, you got options, man. You can get the top of the top if you choose to, and you don't have to sell a whole type.
Than even white men, white women marriages. So if we're stretching, why is it that when we date outside of our race, we're successful, but when you date outside of yours, you're not? Tell me what the leading factors are for that. Are Black women doing numerically worse? Yes. But 34 is still a failure. And I don't know why it was hard for a lot of men engaging with this content, why it was hard for them to accept that. Last observation, and this is a touchy one, so if you made it this far, buckle up. I think that Black men think that they are holding up the marriage market from Black women and saying things like, this is why you're gonna die poor and alone. And Taylor and I did talk about the feminization of poverty, and which is, you know, admittedly potentially outdated information now. Black women could end up being poor and not having a lot of financial resources compared to Black men who end up in the same scenario. And my rebuttal to that is Black women are always going to be okay.
All right, let's look at that's what she said, Doc. How would you respond to that? Because that doesn't look good. Because see, this is what these people do, Doc. They always truncate an average Black woman with less resources, and they truncate those Black women with professional Black women that got money. The average Black woman that doesn't have to have resources, that's educated, is totally different than the average Black woman that's working class. And that's where things get skewed, and that's where the conversation gets crazy, because that's not true. Highly educated Black woman with money, they may or may not, even though they lost DEI jobs, be okay. But I would argue that the average Black woman trying to do it by herself is not going to be okay. How would you respond to that?
Yeah, so there's been, some work done about this, about Black and Latino ladies who have never been married or, essentially living in poverty. So, again, all these numbers get tossed out, and I don't think that. Again, it's a whataboutism. It's you guys' fault. It's Jermaine's fault, and that goes nowhere. We're not having a real conversation where we can actually hear each other and understand what the problems and issues are. And as long as we're at each other's throats, we're going to continue to go down these rabbit holes. And she's making this suggestion that Black women would be okay, but again. Not bragging. I'm not happy about this. 300,000 lost their jobs. It's probably more than that.
It's probably more than that, right?
The Black unemployment rate under Trump has skyrocketed for Black women and Black men. Mm-hmm. So we got to take a look at that and understand that we are under the gun. And this finger pointing, this blaming, this shaming, it's not going to work. It's not going to help any of us. It's not going to help any of us. And to tell us we're going to be okay and this, that, and that. Okay, well, I mean, listen, I think we're better off and better together. But certainly we want someone who wants to be with us, right, who enjoys our presence, our company, our masculinity, our leadership, and that's what we want. And I'm sure that there's things that they want and that they desire. So let's be honest about that. Let's get it together. Let's work on this together. Well, we got to have conversations. And again, if she ever watches this, I would invite her to come on. To have the conversation with the best of intentions. I only had one contentious disagreement my whole time, and everybody's seen that. So
we saw that.
Yeah, well, I don't rock like that. So.
Yeah, they think right, and neither do I. I don't mind having a fair coaching conversation. I'm not going to lambast her or any woman. I will have a conversation and disagree and give my perspective, but calling them out of their names, I'm not going to do that. That's immature. I'm not doing that, but I'm not going to be quiet and tap dance and be PC for the sake of getting along. I'm not doing that, and that's what a lot of men have been conditioned to do, but I'm not doing that, and I think masculine men are not going to do that. Hold tight, hold tight.
Because we are big on community building. Also, a question that was asked: do I think that perspective undermines marriage? And as a person who is a proponent and uplifter of marriage, my answer was no. A lot of Black men view marriage as a duty and a responsibility that helps them to fulfill their legacy-driven goals. But for Black women, marriage is for relational and emotional fulfillment. That divergence in purpose, I think, is where a problem we don't often explore exists. Men do not file for divorce at high rates as Black women because men have a higher window of tolerance for emotional instability. Lots of reasons for that. And I'm not going to get into that because I want to stay on track. Women are more likely to feel like unrest in emotional turmoil, especially when some of their emotional concerns are rooted in tangible needs, as in finances, difference of opinion in raising children, etc. All the things that we know lead to divorce in general. So they are more likely to file. For me, marriage should be a choice that is no longer and not rooted in survival and just meeting a means to an end. It should have a level of emotional fulfillment in a tandem with wealth building.
I took that personal when she said that. Marriage is no longer just about survival. And so to me, that minimizes a man, in my opinion, it objectifies a man's essence only based on his ability to provide. And so, because I can make my money now, you got to give me something more. And what they don't understand fundamentally, Doc, is that the power that they have is the power that men gave them, mostly white, powerful oligarchs. And so when men are being reduced to, okay, we make our own money now, that basically means you don't see anything inherent in masculinity that's suitable outside of provision. How would you respond?
I agree. I think that's exactly what she's saying, is that we don't need you to survive anymore. Now I want you to be a cuddle bear. I want you to meet these other expectations, and survival. I think it was a two-way street for survival.
It was a two-way street, right.
Right. So if I'm out there working all day, I don't have time to cook, clean, whatever. I got to be out there for 8 hours a day, from the can't sees, can't see in the morning to can't see at night. If I'm out there working and hustling and stuff, I need somebody to take care of the kids and do more domestic labor. It was a two-way street. Right. And they're saying that they don't want, as you kind of labeled this social contract is gone. They don't want that anymore. They want something different. Well, okay, well, good luck for getting men to want something different, because we don't want what the new market is selling is not something that we want.
It's not something that we want. And that's what I'm saying. They validate the social contract. And it goes back to what you were saying when you asked these black academics about what happened after the 60s. Well, it's clearly what happened. They got liberated to go and have as much copious amounts of sex as they wanted. They were no longer loyal to black excellence and black community and black building. That's why I say to you respectfully that they are not our women. You can't say you're the woman of a black man, but yet you put your own self-interest above the black man. Now, you and I put the best interest of the black community above all, but they don't. So they're not your women. They're your women in skin hue, but they're not your women in consciousness. And that's why we can't keep saying they're our women, because they're not. When they vote for their own rights and what's best for them. And men got to start saying, I'm going to also do what's best for me. If that means me getting an Asian woman, she'll be my queen. If that means me getting an African woman, she'll be my queen. If that means me getting an Afro-Latina, she'll be my queen. If that means I get a white woman, she'll be my queen. I'm going to rock with the women that are going to rock with me. I'm not going to be this race loyal for the sake of being race loyal, because it doesn't get us anywhere. It gets us nowhere. And when a woman says that and truncates a man's worth only by his ability to provide, fine. As I get my money, as my money come up, as my status come up, as you get older, as your fertility go down, based on that logic, then I'm going to get rid of you once I get to my apex financially. What do you think about what I just said?
Yeah, listen, man, I am disappointed in the fact that a lot of ladies who have bossed up have taken this attitude.
Right.
It's really, really frustrating and disappointing. And I don't know if it was this, but I think it was in this commentary, or maybe she was speaking with Taylor, where she talked about, it might have been this one, where she talked about, this idea that, building legacy is no longer good enough. And this is a phenomenon.
Wow. Somebody said that? Wow. That's funny. Wow.
Yeah. This phenomenon is, again, going on across the world in Western countries, and China, is embracing this or dealing with it as well. And, I can't see, guys just wanting to get married just to, it is about legacy for us. It is about reproducing for the next generation. And again,
right.
Every culture every culture where the women start doing better, the fertility rates goes down. So
Yes,
this is
sir.
to be expected. It's to be expected.
Yes, sir. But then again, Doc, that proves my point that they're not loyal to the mission; they're loyal to themselves. Let me ask you a question, Doc. If I told you and I were homeboys, but I always put, let's say you and I played, you and I had a business, but I always put my self-interest above the business of Dr. L and Kosher. Would you say I'm your brother?
If you always did that, probably not.
Okay, then, so why do we keep saying these women are our women? They're not our women. We want them to be our women. My wife is my woman. But if they keep putting their own best self-interest above the greater collective, then they're not your women. They're your woman as relates to skin color, but they're not your women as relates to consciousness. So I would argue that we got to stop saying they are our women, because if you keep putting your own priorities above the Black community, then you're not my woman. You're just an imposter posing as being my woman, only to expect me to come back when you're at the mercy seat of Big Daddy government, and you're supposed to be down for the cause. It ain't gonna work like that. But go ahead, Doc.
There's that clip from Kevin Samuels where he had a therapist on who struggled to say that. You remember that? I think I might have it. I don't know. I might have it, but anyway, and she struggled so hard to say that Black women belong to Black men, and that really was heartbreaking to me to see this woman struggle with that, because again, all that we've been through, Jim Crow, slavery, etc. And if you converse that with other populations, they don't suffer from the same type of disease that our people seem to be suffering from. And I really wish that we could see that. Again, have these conversations where we could see that. Now, I'm sure that most of these ladies, I've never heard, besides that one therapist, I never heard any Black woman say we don't belong to Black men. I think that they would say that. But in practicality, in practice, they don't. I did hear Ebony K. Williams one time say that Black women and Black men no longer have the same voting interests. And that broke my heart as well, because when you go to the ballot box, you're voting for something that I might not be voting for. And I may be voting for something that you're not voting for. Every year, the Republican Party gets more votes from Black men than from it's a growing statistic within the Black community for Black men to more and more vote for the Republican Party.
Right.
And and of course it's now growing between all male and female relationships, where more males are voting for more conservative ideas because they want legacy, because they want a future. And so we are missing each other. Now we are the canaries in the coal mine. Whenever America gets a cold, Black folks get the flu. We all understand that. And so this phenomenon that we're seeing in the dominant society has been going on and occurring within our community since the 1960s, with joblessness, etc. And so this is where we're at. This is where we're at. And I wish that we could really have the conversations so we can see and understand this tricking that's been going on, to quote Dr. Chiaku, this tricking that has been going on. So we could really figure out how we fix this. Otherwise we should just forget it. We should just do it. Okay, everybody's just going to date out. We stop trying to save the community.
Well, listen, man.
I don't know.
It becomes a time, Dr. L, where pragmatism must supersede emotional volatility. I've already seen the writing on the wall. If people want to keep building a house built on sand, go at it. But I like what theology say: unless God build a house, the labor builds it in vain. And the foundation is not built on masculine godly principles anymore. It's built on emotionalism, wokeism, social justice-ism, and men placating to her emotions and doing and more or less shaping his masculinity based on her feelings. And I love how you said that when you started the conversation with Taylor. Masculine men ain't doing that. I'm not doing that. Even if I worked at a bus stop, if I worked and dug ditches, I still am not doing it. I'd rather be alone and maintain my dignity as a man before I truncate my masculinity for the sake of a woman's approval. I'm not doing that. And I'm all right. I'm all right by being by myself, because men can cook by themselves. We can get focus fact. Women keep saying women don't need men. Well, men really don't need women anymore, because we can get focus factor meals. We can work out. You can eat what we want to eat. I'm not saying it's right, but some men can buy whores if they want to buy them. So what do I need a wife for? Many men now see women as a liability than an asset. So they're saying, what do I need a woman for? Shout out to my man Byron Hammer for that $5 super sticker. Shout out to brother Byron Hammer. Let's finish listening to her. Hold tight, Doc. Hold tight.
In generational building and things like that. What I noticed is for a lot of men, marriage is by fire, by force. Marriage is by any means necessary to uplift the Black race. But women do not see it that way. And you can call that a problem, or you can try and understand why you think you're not deserving of an emotional connection that feels fulfilling and has a destiny-driven purpose. Whether or not you think men are more successful in the marriage market than women because of the numbers or not, the fact remains that Black marriage sucks. It sucks to get into, and it sucks to stay in, and we are not doing well. And we can keep doing this, or we can call ourselves to the table, because I do that with my demographic, and ask ourselves what we're willing to change, and we do it in a way where people can actually hear you and that doesn't create discord, how I've seen in some of these comments. Or we can keep doing this and see where it gets us.
But truth will always create discord. You can't say the truth no way. You can't say it easy. You can't say it the hard way. Truth will always create some level of discord. I'm going to show you this, Doc. I know you got things to do. I ain't going to hold you up. I want to show you this real quick. And you tell me goes back to when you was asking these doctors. This goes back to the concept about the social contract. Let's look at this real quick. Hold tight.
Provision. Nurturing. Historically, the core exchange was husband, provide financially, protect the family, work outside the home, lead household direction. Wife raise children, manage the household, provide emotional support, maintain the home environment. This system dominated most Western societies until roughly the 1960s, 1980s.
That goes back to what you just said a minute ago, Doc. That was the social contract. Sexual exclusivity, the woman being the nurturer in the home. And so there's a strong correlation between the Lyndon B. Johnson administration and liberalism, and also the precipitous decline of traditional relationships. What do you say to that?
Yeah, as you talked about before, or alluded to before, there's a decline. The horse is out the barn, and men just got to adjust.
Mm-hmm.
If you're still looking for that, either you got to go overseas to get it, or really be strict in your analysis or in your vetting process as to what kind of woman you're going to get. And I mean, hold out for what you want to hold out for. I think it would be great to get that. But we're fighting an uphill battle. I admit that, and I want that, and I wouldn't settle for anything less. And again, as we talked about earlier, one of the biggest things is men, you got to hold your ground and be that dude, be that man, be that guy that these ladies want to change for or will perk themselves up for. Again, I watched a video the other day. It think I'm going to do a reaction to it, but I'll talk about it.
Okay.
It was a lady. She talked about she was African or Caribbean or something. I get all the accents mixed up, but she was talking about how the times have changed, and you got to get on that. You got to get on track with that. And if you're not going to get on track with that, if you're not going to become that guy, you're going to get lost. You're just going to fall behind. You're going to fall behind, and you're not going to get the things that you want. That was essentially what it is. So you got to become that dude. You got to work on yourself, and just keep pushing forward. I mean, it's going to frustrate you. There's a lot of different ladies out here whose thought process has changed. The women of today are not the women of yesterday. They're not.
They're not.
We see
They are
70-year-olds twerking. I see
not.
70-year-olds twerking. 70-year-olds
not.
with raptor claws. They're not the same ladies. Man.
They're not the same ladies. They're not.
You got to hold out. You got to become that guy. You got to become that guy.
Totally agree.
And if a woman would be willing to change for her boss, put on a certain type of clothes, and whatever, if she's not willing to do that for you, then she more or less does not see you as an authority figure.
Right.
So you got to become an authority figure. Say what you
Right.
mean what you say. I know we debated, well, not you and I, but there's been a debate in the comment section about finances. You got to become that dude. You got to be. They're not going to respect anything else. You got to become that dude.
But here's the problem with that, Doc. And I'm gonna tell you what I've seen in marriages. I give this a little bit of pushback. There are plenty of men that have made good money. I had a guy one time in therapy that was a neurosurgeon. He made over $900,000 a year, and he still got the same behavior. So I would say in theory that's true, but in reality that's not necessarily true. You can make all the money that you want. If a woman does not respect you, she's not going to respect you. If she's been imprinted by a more dominant man, she's not going to respect you. If you don't believe me, ask Jada Pinkett and Will Smith. Will Smith leveled up. Steph Curry leveled up. Aisha Curry ain't respecting Steph Curry. Jeff Bezos leveled up. He's the paragon of wealth. And so I understand what people are saying, but I would say this a little pushback in all respect as my brother. I don't think that's the panacea. I think it's a heart issue. I think it's a heart issue. It's a lack of self-awareness, and it's slithering on narcissistic traits. Leveling up does not mean that a woman is going to respect you. And it goes back to what you were saying that's highly true. What am I leveling up for if I'm not getting what my grandfather and my great-grandfather got, and then I can lose half of it in the courts? So it's like we having this double talk. We saying level up, but then we know the system is adversarial to men.
Well,
so go ahead.
My advocation is to level up, is to do it for yourself.
Okay.
And then you can either go overseas.
Okay, gotcha. There you go.
Or you just become the best version of yourself and live by yourself.
Okay, I mean, gotcha. That makes sense now.
So you just level up,
gotcha.
Work on yourself,
right.
And if a woman comes you meet is willing to come in and get on your program, here's the way I'm living, here's the way I'm moving. I go to the gym, I eat right, I exercise, I this is where I run my house, and this is what's going on. If you're willing to do that, then do it.
Okay, gotcha. I see your point.
But wallowing in the pit of self-despair, becoming depressed because I don't have a woman, because I'm not this, because I'm not that, is not going to get you nowhere. It certainly isn't going to get you a woman. You're not going to advance in your job. You're probably going to become overweight. You're probably going to start to develop health issues. So my advice is level up.
Right. I see your point. Michael Malice, that's for you, Doc. Go ahead and read it, brother. Go ahead.
Oh, I missed this here. Women are at war with the glass ceiling of caste. Yeah, there's a lot of caste and social stigmas and et cetera going on here. But again, we can't be at war with that. It's not our job and to your point, I agree with this. It's not our job to break them down and do this, that, and the other. It's not our job. I ain't trying to. I'm not doing all that work. I'm not doing all that work.
Not at all, brother.
For again, I got every other one of my needs, man. I'm going to do all this work for
emotional labor.
I got to do more emotional labor. I got to come out. I got to make sure that you feel good. Oh, baby, you look good. I bought a new dress. You didn't say anything about my dress. You didn't say anything about my cooking. You didn't. I don't have time for all that.
Yeah, you're right. No,
I'll
get focus factor, man, and go get me a back rub at a massage parlor, man, when I'm getting stressed out. Quiet Storm said I'll enroll into Chicken George State before I marry in the United States. He said he's going to Chicken George State University, Doc, before he married to the United States. Hold on.
Sexual exclusivity. Marriage created a socially accepted agreement. Both partners agree to sexual exclusivity. Paternity, certainty for children, stable family structure. Historically, this was considered one of the central pillars of marriage. 3. Long-term commitment. Marriage historically meant lifetime partnership. Divorce was rare and stigmatized. Families and communities reinforced staying together.
4. Child-rearing partnership. Marriage was designed to create stable environment for children, shared parenting responsibilities, social legitimacy for offspring. Society assumed children would be raised by their married parents. 5. Social and economic stability. Marriage functioned as a social institution, not just a relationship. Benefits included shared wealth building, inheritance rights, social status, community approval. Why people say the social contract is broken. A lot of modern discussions, especially in commentary spaces like the type you cover on your channel, argue that the traditional exchange has changed. Common claims include women can now provide for themselves financially. Divorce laws changed incentives. Roles became less defined. Expectations became individual instead of institutional. So the old agreement of men provide, women nurture shifted toward both partners negotiate roles in.
And there goes that egalitarian relationship. And listen, you were a chief of police. Is that true, Doc?
I was a captain, not
You were
chief.
a captain. As being a captain in the police department in your state, the Commonwealth state of Connecticut, is it safe to say that you can't have two competing factions at the captain position? Is that a safe assessment?
Yeah. So if you're saying if my word is law, then yeah.
That's my point. If you're a captain and I'm a captain, but I'm constantly juxtaposing against your captainship, then is that synergy or is that dysfunction?
Oh, it's definitely dysfunction.
And that's why I don't agree with this egalitarian nonsense. I'm gonna play this a little bit. I know you got to go. Hold tight.
Individually. The modern marriage contract. Today, marriage is more about emotional compatibility, shared values, personal fulfillment, flexible roles, instead of fixed expectations.
All right. So, what do you got out of this conversation, Doc? I thought this was a great show, man. I love your candor and your people that came through, man, and shot the club up, you know. But you know what, man? I love the fact, man, that you have been holding the line in your conversations lately. Not saying you weren't doing it in the past, but you definitely been holding the line. I was reading some of the comments of Taylor's channel. They say you just straightforward and to the point. And I think men gotta be straightforward and to the point. We gotta speak unapologetically as men and don't care about the repercussions. Don't be afraid of losing subs, because I will argue that you will want people that's gonna rock with you based on what you believe in versus people you saying what people want you to say for the sake of acceptance. And I know you have a lot of hope for this faltering experiment called the Black community and Black excellence. What is the number one thing you got out of this conversation, and how are you beginning to shape your worldview now with this newfound information?
Well, again, I'm gonna stick on the improvement and betterment of Black men in particular. That has been my focus. It's going to continue to be my focus. At times, you have to, in order to get better Black men, you have to have better women to help raise them. So sometimes you have to, the conversation is going to have to be shifted to them and 100% to them as to what their faults are. We talk about Black men's fault. We talk about the things that they need to do. And I have no problem doing that. I have done it and will continue to do it. Tell you to level up, wash your tail, get your hygiene up, and et cetera, right? Go to school, get a, do all this other stuff, that men should be doing. But, as far as this experiment, as to this thing we got going on, I understand that there's a lot of pessimism out there. I hear it. I know it. People email me. I understand it. And I'd like to be more optimistic. I do agree that the environment has to change. The environment concerning social welfare, the environment concerning, what people think about social media, all these different things play a role in a factor. And I hear the young lady that we played before about what she's looking for in a relationship and what she believes that a vast majority of men are looking for in their relationships. But you got to get men to sign up for that. You got to get men to sign up to be partners. You got to get men to sign up for that and the type of man that you want in order to make it go. So if all else fails, if everything else fails, relationships fails, whatever happens, concerning this war and everything else fails, if you can look at yourself and say that I did the best that I could do, and that's what I'm talking about, men leveling up. If you can look at yourself in the mirror and saying, I did the best I could do. I leveled up. I got my degree. I got my education. I drove trucks. I started the business. I got my body right. I ate right. I did everything I could do. Then that would be that is the best piece of advice I could give to anyone at any time, So if your end goal, if the end goal is to get a woman, then I think your goal is wrong and messed up. If your goal, the only reason you got a job, the only reason you wash your tail, the only reason that you do whatever you're doing is to get a woman at the end of the day, I think you've already lost. Your focus is wrong. Your concept and worldview is already lost.
Right.
You got to focus on yourself, your family, and if somebody wants to get on your program, right? Not that we quote a couple of scriptures, we'll quote another one, right? A man who finds a wife. Now that means that a man has been doing what he should have been doing. He did his job. He has leveled up, and he is now in a place where he can allow a woman to come into his life.
Exactly.
And that's all I'm saying about that.
Right.
I agree. And if you never get one, at least you can now coast in your life, because you got everything. You got a home, you got a car, you got your 401k. You can rest and relax. You can play PlayStation all day. You can do all that all you want, because you have done the work on yourself. And not only, let me also bring this up to mental health and as we talked about emotional well-being, etc. There are, as we started off this conversation, a lot of men who don't know how to regulate their emotions. They get mad, they throw things, they get violent with women.
That's true.
That is definitely true. So in your time of working on yourself and getting your degrees and getting your certificates and licenses and building your businesses and getting your LLCs and everything else that you're doing, make sure that you work on yourself emotionally as well.
I totally
if you're
agree with
exploding on people, exploding on your kids, exploding on your dog, exploding on every girlfriend if every girlfriend you ever said, listen, you need to work on yourself, brother, you might need to work on yourself. And don't be afraid to do it. Don't be afraid to take a look in the mirror and say, you know what? I do get mad too often. You know what? I do walk off a lot of jobs for no reason. You know what? I do got to do some work on myself. Ain't nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that. And I think fundamentally, even though there are some emotionally reactive men, I think men in general have been held under scrutiny at a greater level than women. And now the conversation, because it's changing the tide, some don't like it. How about you respond?
Well, as far as the changing tide, I think it's an uncomfortable conversation that men actually have standards. Men actually have standards. And again, we talk about Black men in particular. Black men have been left out of the conversation. Oh, Dr. Thunder's in the house. Black men have been these types of garbage men who have not been able to voice their opinion, had to take whatever came along. And now that we're doing better, we want to be just as choosy, maybe even sometimes choosier, because I want a good woman. I want
Gucci sweater now.
A good woman. Doing better now, Gucci sweater.
That's right. Gucci sweater now. That's right.
And you know what, Dr. L, also, man, I think because you and Dr. Thunder and I grew up in Gen X, it wasn't perfect in Gen X. They were doing ratchet stuff in Gen X too, but I would argue that Gen X women was a better quality. Until the advent of social media, the advent of the internet, the advent of all this nonsense now. But also we could argue that Gen X women also were part of the dysfunction too, because they were the ones pushing these liberal agendas and pushing rebellion in general against their men. Dr. Dunner, what are you getting from the conversation? I know Dr. L got to go in a minute, but what are you getting from the conversation?
Oh yeah, man. You two are two of my favorites to listen to.
Thank you,
people that I respect deeply, admire, and I always enjoy listening to you gentlemen. And it is it's a reminder that though it feels isolating and lonely doing what it is that we do, but knowing that you brothers are out here fighting the good fight also, this makes it it's just good, camaraderie and brotherhood and all of that. I thought that the conversation, um, you know, it's a conversation, much of which is that we've been having. I think it's an important conversation to continue having. I don't know that things are likely to change much, and so I think that Dr. L's, uh, level up, get yourself together, do it for other reasons other than chasing women. We'll just put it that way, because that's one of the issues that I have with the advice of level up, and then you'll get the girls that you want.
Right.
Because there has to be actually girls that are, that are worthy. I put in the chat earlier, comparable to a God-fearing man, a good man is a virtuous woman.
Right.
And even during Bible times, virtuous women were far and few between.
They were far in between. That's true. Very true.
And very rare.
Rare,
I just think that what's worse now is that it's legitimized to be for the streets, and to and even the conversation about if you should ask somebody about their body count or not. And I understand the different positions on that, but why should that even have to be a thing? Period. Like, even that conversation, I think personally you have to ask the question, but why are we even in a scenario where that is like something that you have to deal with? It's one thing if you're talking about, marrying somebody that's a widow.
Right.
It's like, okay, well, you were with one guy, you don't need to ask the question. Right. You already know what it is.
That's right.
And the social pressure and women shaming each other, even, for them not to be out here in the streets and sleeping with other people's husbands and all this kind of stuff. The shame associated with that, largely prevented a lot of that kind of, at least open, flagrant kind of behavior. So you have that. I made a couple other comments in the chat. One thing I was saying was, let's see here. Marriage is about children. So this idea that legacy is not enough, well, then there's no reason to get married. Right. That's 100%. It's 100% of what marriage is about. Right. Marriage is not really about the people that get married.
Right.
Now, you have to be, you're attracted to each other. That gets you thinking that way. You have some affection for each other. All that stuff is great. And you want to be compatible, but not superficial compatible. Mm-hmm. Superficial compatible is hogwash.
Right.
Compatible is more like, you're different. I'm a guy, you're a girl. We probably don't see the same, as far as politics. We probably don't agree on a bunch of things because I'm masculine and you're feminine, like this. But we came from similar family structures. Our families have similar value systems. We're both religious, or we're both whatever. That's the only part that really matters as far as being compatible. Everything else, as far as even personality differences or the way that you do something versus the way that I do something, so what? The only reason that stuff even matters now is because people have become so imprinted by all these other dudes in their closet. Mm-hmm. And because they're so old by the time they decide that they're going to get married, that, now they're set in their ways and all this kind of stuff. And now they're so insufferable that they can't get along with anybody unless they have this laundry list of things together. That's the whole problem.
Right. So
marriage is failing, not because people are not compatible, or they didn't vet well enough and stuff like this. And yeah, sure, the vetting is I suppose is part of this. Look, I'm in my second marriage. And I chose poorly the first time around. So, okay, we can say maybe that's part of it. But really what it is that people don't have the intestinal fortitude to stay married because they don't prioritize their kids, their legacy, their family, their community. It's all about themselves. It's all me, me, me. I'm not happy right now, so let's blow up everything. And but if legacy is not enough reason to get married, you need something more. What is that something more? I don't know what that something more is. Kids, what's more than kids?
Right.
What is more than kids? What's more than your offspring? What's more than someone that shares your value system and is going to take it into the future when you're not even here anymore? You're long gone and they're still having kids. They're still doing their life. And their kids have kids. And like this, what's bigger than that?
What's bigger than
really,
that?
Honestly, what's bigger than that? Come on, man.
If you gotta go, man, I understand, brother. I don't want to hold you up. If you gotta hop off, man. Anytime you gotta hop off, you go ahead. I don't want to hold you up. But this conversation, go ahead, Doc. Go ahead, brother. Go ahead.
Yeah. I'm gonna hop off. I am gonna keep streaming though, because I know that I got a pretty sizable audience over here. So
Yeah.
keep
We'll keep streaming. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll just drop down, but appreciate you having me on. Thank you so much. Kosher, good to see you again. Doc Thunder,
Yes,
always doing some great work, man. And
it's good to see you, bro.
Yeah. I'll see you
No
guys.
doubt. All right. Got on a Gen X weather too.
Yeah, he said he's the Silver Fox. He's Silver Fox.
He's Silver Fox, man. He's Silver Fox, man. he got the salt and pepper swag too.
I cut all my stuff off, man.
Yeah, I might have to
you got to join the club, brother. You got to join the club, man.
I try, man. My face is gets all beat up and stuff, man. I can't handle it.
Yeah, right.
That's y'all. You got it.
All right, Doctor. I appreciate it,
just
brother.
Just drop me down. Thanks.
All right. Yes, sir. Be good, brother. All right. You can take yourself down, man. Hold tight. Let me see. All right. There we go. All right. So when you heard the young lady, Dr. Thunder, she was talking about women need more. Women need more, Dr. Thunder. They need more. But as they're demanding more, inflation is still constantly going up. And I found that to be in the front, because if that's the case, then as Dr. Thunder continues to make more money and get status and power, and if they're making money, if she's making money, and they need more because they make money symmetrical to men, then based on that logic, as she gets older and her fertility declines, then if you're making more money and your status is going up, you should get rid of her and trade her in for something younger, based on that logic. But is that not offensive to hear a woman say that to some degree?
Yeah, I just it just shows you that I mean, especially with a kind of woman that would say what it is she says, you shouldn't touch her with a 10-foot pole. You have to see. I've gotten to the point now where I don't associate with people that are like that. I refuse to associate with people that are like that. As soon as I hear you talking like that or acting that way, that makes me want to discontinue any kind of collaboration even with you. I mean, I can still get along with people.
That clip you played before said for men with options, you're just not going to get men to sign up for that. That's not a priority. And when they talk about here's where it goes into the second part. There is this emotional connection.
All right, go ahead, Doc. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I apologize. Go ahead.
Oh no, that's okay. But my point is I can get along with people that I don't agree with, but if you are, I don't know, and I advise men. I would advise men, if you hear women talking like this, that's all the vetting that you need, because that is not going to change. That's not going to change. They're not going to all of a sudden, decide that they were wrong, and it's too late for some folks.
Yeah.
You hear them talking like that, and it's not about being bitter against women or anything like that. It's just about understanding that, look, you have something that you want. You're worthy enough to get something that's worth something for yourself.
Right.
And the most important thing that you can do for your kids is pick a good woman.
Mm-hmm.
You will not be able to counteract the damage that that a woman can do to your kids. You will not be able to counteract it. She'll be constantly undermining you, and frankly, she's going to be around your kids probably more than you will.
Mm-hmm.
Just as far as just the number of hours. I mean, starting from when they're very, very little and getting up to a certain age. Now that'll change as they get older, but the thing is by the time they get older, the damage is already done, and so now you don't really have anything that you're going to be able to do, because by the time a kid gets to about 12 or 13 years old, they're really who they are.
They're really who they are. That's true.
Yeah,
that's very true. And High Vibe 001 said we are fickle and selfish, and they are. And so it's almost like, people like him with a concept called emotional relationship capitalism. And I never heard the term hoflation, Dr. Thunder, until him and I did these streams, and then all of a sudden big content creators were saying hoflation. And I promise you, I didn't get it from nobody else. I just made it from the top of my head.
Sure.
But hoflation is real. It's rampant, it's persistent, it's pernicious. It doesn't have a consciousness. It's basically you grind at the machine of her feelings. And many times, Doc, these conversations are often shaped into, you know what I'm talking about, liberal dogmas taught to
these conversations
social justice.
Into, you know what I'm talking about, liberal dogmas.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, liberal dogmas, social justice issues, and always under female victimization. And you said something, I heard you say something, Dr. Dundon, and it's true. And I've always said it. We thought that first wave and second wave feminism was okay. I used to think that, but I realized that it wasn't. It was always a cultic and rebellion against male leadership. Yep. What would you respond to that? And then, Roger, I want to hear you, brother. Go ahead.
Yeah. Feminism has always been the same thing. It's always been demonic. It's always been racist, and it's always been sexist. It's always been those three things. It has just taken longer for certain aspects of it to fully manifest. But that was always the value system from the beginning. The proto-feminists were theosophists.
Philosophical, right. Madame Blavatsky.
That's right. They were witches. They were tarot card reading. They were heavily into astrology, spirit mediums, and all of the talk about, the patriarchy and railing against the patriarchy is because they have a hatred for the concept of a God as a father, God as a male, and so all of the gender bending and creating more fluidity within particular gender roles and offices that were always occupied by men, to open them up. All of that stuff is an outgrowth of that, that belief system. It's witchcraft.
It's witchcraft. It goes clear to what the Bible said. Rebellion is as idolatry. I mean, stubbornness is as idolatry, and rebellion is as the sin of witchcraft. So basically, she's stubborn to her feelings and her emotions, but she's rebellious towards masculine authority and leadership. And
I'll say this last thing.
Okay, go ahead.
And I haven't watched the whole interview yet. But the great trumpeter Wynton Marsalis, who I've performed with, I've interviewed him, and I've known him for a lot of years. And he's been tremendously supportive, and he's been he's probably the greatest trumpet player to live. He's ever. I mean, he's really terrific musician, and he's been such a great ambassador for Black American music, for jazz, and particularly his Lincoln Center Band and their constantly focusing on the work of Duke Ellington. And a part of this interview that he did recently, where he announced that he's going to be stepping down from his basically being the artistic director of the Lincoln Center Band, so that he can pursue some other things. He's 64 years old. He's got some other goals that he has in mind. He was talking about how this sort of a rebel without a cause, that in Hollywood, and then also in like rock and roll music, that that sort of it was popularized, and it they sold a lot of records on that, but it's never that wasn't going to be a long-term sort of, it's not going to be a long-term sort of thing, and it's been rather destructive to the culture. Whereas when you look at people like Duke Ellington and other artists of his stature, they always had a much deeper and more profound, family-oriented culture, creating, not destroying, sort of collaborative, even kind of a thing. Duke Ellington wrote over 2,000 compositions, and has been very much influential on American music, period, on world music. And so you think of the sort of destruction that is going on now, and how toxic so many aspects of Black culture in particular have become, is because we sort of rejected many of the folks that were trying to do something positive in the culture, people like a Duke Ellington. So anyhow, I'm just saying that to say our culture wasn't always as toxic, and this issue that we have between Black men and women wasn't always the way that it is now.
Right.
And we have the potential. There is the capability, the potential for it to be different, but we just embrace the wrong things. We listen to the wrong folks, and fully embrace feminism in all its destruction. And this is where we are now.
No doubt, man. Listen, I know you got to go. Thanks for tapping in, man. You're not going to have to do another show at some point. You know what? Maybe we need to do a parenting show about that. I'm trying to get the lady that did a great book. She was on CBN. And I had always known it, Dr. L, and I always tied this cultic feminism to John Milton's Paradise Lost. And John Milton's Paradise Lost, many times these causal chains are tied to, like you said, the Theophilosophical Society, Rosicrucianism, Masons, Gnostics.
Are you talking about Carrie Gress?
That might be her. Yeah.
Yeah, I just did a show. What was it? Yesterday or the day before yesterday, where I played about half of a recent interview that she did. She's terrific. She's Catholic, and she's a former feminist, and she's got a PhD. She's heavy. Her research is really impeccable, and the combination of her and Rachel Wilson, those two have done some really, really great work, sort of exposing a lot of those demonic roots of feminism.
Yeah, I would love to definitely get her, man. I'm gonna see if I can get her and do a show with her.
I think it would probably be easier to get Carrie Gress than it would be to get Rachel Wilson, probably.
Okay, I'm gonna try Carrie. Maybe you, I, and her both can do a show, or we can't. We just do a reaction to her video, and we'll chop it up and break it down. But I know you got to go. Thanks for tapping in, man. I'm about to get ready to see these Tar Heels play Duke.
All right, man.
All right, man. Be good, brother.
Peace.
All right, Doctor. I'm peaceful. Like, go ahead, brother. How you doing, sir? And shout out to the guy from Memphis, man. Right. So, what do you get out of this conversation, brother? What are you getting from the conversation?
Well, I mean, to be honest with you, it's a very there's a lot of nuances to the conversation. It's a different time that we're living in right now.
Very different.
And I think what happens is that we're seeing these conversations more because I think the environment has changed in terms of, women are engaging men in a certain way. We see women putting out content about dating events and guys not showing up and men not approaching them, and all kinds of different avenues that are all kinds of different things that are going on now. And my concern is, are these things motivated by a genuine desire to be in relationship or under the leadership of men, or is this because of economic duress, financial hardships, financial difficulties, or women that are tired of working these long, hard hours? You average commute time. Some people spend about a month on the road just commuting back and forth to work. If you calculate the amount of hours you spend in the car, some people have not haven't invested their money, or they're having financial issues, or relationships didn't work out. And now I call what I call the Hail Mary. Maybe somebody divorced their husband, thought that there was a man tree out here looking for another man. Women that have put their careers and put family aside and focused on their careers, and basically have delayed those things, but they were still engaging in maybe sexual activity, promiscuity, out here having sex and enjoying sexual freedom. And now, after everything has come to a full circle, where government programs have been cut, they've been cutting, DEI is gone, affirmative action programs are gone. All of these cuts that have been made to the government for these women's empowerments, all these social programs that were being heavily funded by taxpayers are starting to disappear and erase. Inflation is going crazy. I mean, obviously, when Kevin Walsh takes over the Fed in May, there's going to be probably some interest rate cuts, and probably there's going to be a lot of money printing. Inflation is going to be on the rise. House prices is not getting any cheaper. Lower interest rates. Houses are only going to go up. They're only going to get more expensive. Houses and land, they don't make any more of it. They're not making any more land. They just not. And the cost of construction houses is expensive. So those costs are real. And with automation and AI and all this concerns about technology, it creates a lot of concern and fear in women. And I always say, they don't have that typical liberal government that reassures them with all these programs, women's empowerment and all these things. So it forces them to look at men, but not in a humble way, in a necessity way, which I think is dangerous.
I totally agree. It is dangerous. And, I was telling Dr. L in our conversation, we keep saying they're our women, but they're not your women. When you vote for policies that are antithetical to Black excellence, when you put your own agenda before the agenda of the Black community, then we got to stop saying just because a woman has the same skin color as us, that she's our woman. Are there some sisters that ride for the cause? Yes. There are some good sisters that are genuine, and they want Black excellence and Black families and Black communities. But we will argue that that's far and few in between. The majority is about self and about emotions and feelings superseding objectivity, reason, and the greater Black collective. Would you agree with that?
I totally agree. And I always say that for the majority of a lot of women, not all, the government used to be their husband, but this new administration filed for a divorce and divorced them. Now they're looking for the second husband, the new man, and actually a real man instead of the state. And who's going to be that guy? But the problem with that is they don't change their attitude and their mentality towards masculinity. If someone was not raised to be a wife and under the leadership of men, you're forcing somebody to be something that they were never raised to be. So what are they going to do? They're going to fight it. They're going to even if they get that, what they're interested is really the provisions and protection that comes with married life. They're not really interested in being under the leadership of any man because they haven't done it their whole life. In anything, they're talking about these you mentioned about these egalitarian relationships. That a man basically pays for everything. He takes on these traditional, supposedly traditional roles of provider and protector, but inevitably he doesn't have the authority over his home. So, and we always talk about responsibility without authority is pretty much slavery.
Right.
And it's just the most ridiculous thing ever. So you cannot. It's almost like you want the best of both worlds. And even now, I have heard even older women my age that are still single. They're looking for this traditional life, traditional provision, protection from men, but they have been working their whole life.
Right.
So they basically want to keep their money.
Right.
And have that man pay all the bills. And they're older, just like that man. They've had kids. They've had to live their life. You want to take all your money and keep it, and have some man pay 100% of the bills, and you old and he's old. What is he getting?
Nothing.
You know what I mean? Like, he's getting a bad deal. It's not like not like you're building a new legacy and you're starting a family. So we have these situations where these women are trying to double dip, or or the worst is they're using the church now. I call it the religious backdoor. Somehow the church in America is rebuilding virginity. I wish they would rebuild my knees. I tell you, I'll go over there. Can you, you know what I'm saying? If they can make a woman a virgin again, they can surely bring me back to about 25 years old. I go out there and play some 505 right now.
Right.
So I don't know what's going on in the church.
And you know what? I'm glad you said that, because they never see outside of themselves. They never ask men what they want. And then as soon as men say, okay, like the young lady was saying, we make money now, so therefore your your ability to emotionally connect must rise. But okay, let's say that's true, but you're getting older, your fertility is dropping, and you want men to meet that standard, but nothing wrong with that. But what are you getting that man back in return? And it's nothing. And that's why I said Dr. Helen Smith wrote a book called His Side. And shout out to Dr. Helen Smith. But nobody ever heard his side. It's always about her side, and the conversation of masculinity is always truncated in her emotionalism, which I don't have an issue with men being emotional to their women. Let me ask you a question. Would you say that men are more egalitarian now than most men of prior generations? Because you travel abroad, you travel to certain countries. And I will argue the foreign men are not as egalitarian as American black men. And Michael King is right. Women want a man with money now more than ever. Go ahead and respond to that.
I totally agree. They're actually, a whole society is not egalitarian. You're a man, you have authority, you have responsibility. And I see Gloria asks, what about the men that haven't been taught authority because he wasn't raised around men? Then the world punishes him. If you don't measure up to being a man that you're supposed to be, society takes out the whip and whips your ass.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the same as women, where we have all these panda bears, all these simps, all these men, government, the whole general corporate sponsored feminism, government empowerment, the society basically crucifies men. Men crucifies men that are not measuring up. Kevin Samuels, before he started switching to women, was digging into men's ass about not being squared away. We get at men. Dr. L was just on this podcast digging into men, telling men what they have to be to get the outcomes that you want. I'm digging into men. Kosher digs into men.
Right.
The problem is you cannot have accountability only for one gender.
Mm-hmm.
We're great at telling men what they're supposed to be to get the outcomes that they want. But who's great at telling women what they're supposed to be to get the outcomes that they want? Anytime a man tries to tell a woman what she's supposed to be to get the outcome that she wants, they call him misogynist.
Right.
They say he hates women.
Mm-hmm.
You don't like your mama. Why are you saying this? You can't they can't have one gender accountability in this society and have good outcome. Mm-hmm. If you start any conversation of how a man's supposed to be treated and what does a woman supposed to do to maintain a relationship with a man in terms of fulfilling his needs or understanding male psychology, the room would go silent. You hear crickets.
You hear crickets.
Because all we talk about is what women need, how men should be better for women.
Right.
And especially me on my channel, I talk about how men need to be better for themselves. Mm-hmm. You need to be squared away as a man. And I talk about self-preservation. And I talk about nobody takes care of you like you. So we're demanding that men live and operate in excellence. Where's the equivalent of that for women? All people do all day long is pander to women. We have channels gold digging channels like Sprinkle Sprinkle. We have Derek Jackson's, these panda bears, guys sitting around in tight t-shirts with their nipples out, talking about how women should be given this amount of money, send her $1,000 just for the hell of it. We have panda women. Derek Jackson has over 5 million subscribers or something like that, and he's getting paid. So that's what the women are listening to. Real positive reinformation messages. Nobody's holding women accountable in this society other than you go to the manosphere or red pill communities or whatever else. Nobody tells women anything. Most guys just kiss women's ass because men want sex. So men are guilty of what men are really guilty of is lying to women all day long.
Well, I would say some men are guilty. I think men now are speaking up. I think more men are speaking up now than ever.
Well, we are, but
yeah.
If you look at a general woman's Facebook or Instagram, or a woman that looks halfway decent, like I go on Facebook and she put a post up, there's a huge crew of, I call them jellyback simps, that are just putting comments that they're just thirsty men with no spine, spineless men, leaving comments praising her, validating her all day long, man. I think you have a super chat, right? It's you or me.
Yeah. That's Gregory Scott. That's me. So salute, Jim. Hey, peaceful life. I wonder how many people got upset with your promotion of Ayn Rand's writing. I'm gonna let you answer that. Somebody asked a question that they haven't. So this person says, what about men that haven't been taught authority because he wasn't raised around men? So I don't know if that's a man or woman. That's a good question. Come see me for a non-diagnostic consultation. I'm a licensed therapist, and let me coach you. And I'll tell you how they get the outcomes that they want. I'm Glorious Lover. I don't know if they're on Dr. L's channel, A Peaceful Life, or yours.
Right.
But let's talk about with a non-diagnostic consultation. I'll give you the game. But what do you think about what Gregory Scott said about Ayn Rand's writing? Go ahead, brother.
Well, I think, like, at some point right now, in the state that we're in terms of preserving men's mental health, preserving men's resources, and the fact that we are in an exploitative environment right now because of the economy, because of the society, men are still suffering in silence. Men are getting divorces and they're all alone. And men are wondering why. We listened to everything you told us to do. We were protectors, we were providers, we worked hard, we took care of our kids and our families, we took care of our women in our life, and it still didn't work out for us. And I try to explain to men that you can't build equity with women. Women are loyal to their emotions, their feelings many times. It takes a woman with strong emotional intelligence to overcome that, to fight through it, and to still do the right thing. And we're leaving guys out here because the biggest sin that we have today is altruism with men, not putting themselves first. There's guys working 80, 90 hours a week. There's guys not taking care of their health. They're eating bad. They're not exercising. They're not going to the gym. They're putting every last dime in their kids' 529 funds for college. They're taking care of women that are disrespectful, that are ungrateful. We have an epidemic of sexless marriages. The guy come home, work 80 hours a day, and he can't get laid. Right. Not to mention a hot plate of food at the end of the day, pouring his whole life into everybody else.
I totally agree.
This is the nice guy syndrome. And the return on that really is usually a slap in the face with disrespect. So Ayn Rand, in my opinion, and I came up with Ayn Rand because she pushes back against the sin of altruism. And we talk about life as this sacrificial animal, and which was what men need to be. See, men were programmed to be disposable. Men were programmed to be sacrificial animal. To reverse that mindset and mentality, you need something that's going to be hard-hitting, that removes that mindset of just self-destructiveness and adds that element of self-esteem back to the conversation. And you've dealt with it a lot, Kosher.
I see it all the time.
Broken men, no self-esteem, no self. Right. Yeah, everything they talking about is saving everybody else.
Right.
And they don't want to do anything to save themselves because they've been programmed that everybody else must come first. And, and that's just the mentality of a self-destructive creature. So I figure Ayn Rand was the ultimate individual to erase that mental programming that exists, the deficit that exists in men, would have been programmed for all their life by the culture. Most guys, I always say, PGS talked about it, they've been implanted with a synth bug, a virus, in their brain, in their bodies, through the culture, through society, from Hollywood, Disney movie, the fairy tale, to romanticize love and relationship, while the women themselves have been raised to be selfish, self-centered, focus on yourself, your career, family last, don't trust no man, the color purple narrative. Every Tyler Perry movie, the man is a degenerate animal who cheats on his wife and It's a whole lot of crap going on in this culture society.
It's a wicked cycle. I agree with High Vibe. Most television programs targeting women because of advertisement. That's another tool to keep us at odds. I agree. Michael King said he was raised in an egalitarian family that messed him up, but I was brought out by learning women's nature and the impact of feminism on the population. Very true, guys. If you want a cash out, I'm a social. I said cash out. If you want me to read a comment, donate to the channel. And so, yeah, man, I think the conversation, man, is about men beginning to live their lives. I call it the right to self-determination. My masculinity is not going to be shaped by what no woman think. I could care less about what a woman think. I'll get with a woman that's going to hear my position as a man and try to acquiesce to my position as a man, and then I do the same thing for her. But I'm not going to subjugate my masculinity for the sake of her emotions. And women don't need money now, but so you need to get better with your emotional intelligence. But your body count is high. You're overweight. You don't offer men of value anything. And so a lot of men are just saying, enough is enough. And, it becomes a time, man, when men got to start telling their own stories, man, for the most part. They got to start telling their own stories. Because man, I see it all the time. A lot of men suffering in silence. They're dying off early and all of that. Go ahead.
No, but I'm saying, like, what's even interesting in what you're saying, brother, is that many women know they want to be with men. They know the situation is difficult. And they understand, some of them, the ones that even made a mistake, they understand they've made certain mistakes in life in terms of managing their youth. But the crazy thing about it, and somebody mentioned before, but women do quite a bit of the spending in society, and everything is centered around women. But even in the attempts to rekindle some type of relationship, everything is led nowadays with shame.
Right.
We're gonna man shame you into a relationship. I see content creators, they say, well, they want men to approach women, right? But then at the same breath, they'll call men weak and cowards for not approaching women. You see what I'm saying? Even though women have said things like they chose to bear, or men should be born in jail and earn their way out, or they feel offended if a certain man approaches them that they're not attracted to, or there's certain things in society that say certain things that they say all kinds. It's almost like, even though they want an outcome, they lead with shame.
Mm-hmm.
They like to tell us what a real man is.
Mm-hmm.
And it's usually about everything that serves them. You notice everything about what a real man is, like a woman can really tell us what a man is. Real man is, it's everything about them, what benefits them. And the conversation is me, I, what you need to be with me,
mm-hmm.
not what I need to be with you.
Mm-hmm.
So we have this, even though these dynamics of relationship, it's a one-sided conversation that's always about them. And I ask the question all the time, what about the man?
Mm-hmm.
What is he getting? And what do you have to do to be with the man that you want?
Right.
We're great at telling men what they need to be. We're great at telling men that they ain't real men. We're great at calling men cowards for not approaching women. We're great at telling men that they're horrible for not showing up at dating events.
What do you think about what High Vibe 10 said? What do you think about that? But two things could be true, High Vibe. I respect her position. She said, I can't give her Ayn Rand's position, and she was staunch against the civil rights movement. Two things can be true.
Actually, she was not against the civil. She's actually made a quite, if you look at Ayn Rand's statement on racism and what she thinks about racism, and that she considered a racist person as an inferior human being. And she defines a racist person as somebody who's looking for welfare. They're looking for free handout because you're looking for a status not earned. She concluded that a racist person is looking for the unearned, basically a lazy, worthless person. So I would do more reading about that individual for, first of all, to understand the concept of which she was coming from. It's a totally different, just like if you were to look at Milton Friedman or any of these other people of the past, even Malcolm X, you got to understand the thinking behind what they're saying. You got to dig deeper into their philosophy or into their mindset and their mentality. You know.
Gregory Scotland said we was not totally against the civil rights movement. She did not like going overboard beyond removing segregation. We was not totally against the civil rights movement.
Wow.
She did not like going overboard not going overboard to beyond removing. I don't know what that means.
But if people really would care about so much about the civil rights movement, the Democratic Party fought hard to stop the civil rights bill. You look at 1964, 1965, but most Black women are 92% vote Democrat. I'm saying, so women are Democrats. The Democrats fought against the civil rights bills. The Republicans actually fought for our civil rights. And a lot of Black women are heavily with the Democratic Party. If you look at Lyndon B. Johnson and many of the Southern racists that fought against, our rights and our freedoms, women still support that ideology. They still support that party. I'm not saying they shouldn't, but most of the women vote for policies that are anti-family, anti-community, anti-masculinity. In fact, they vote for policies that challenge the very notion of what a man is. Doesn't that? So I always ask them, well, what are you talking about? You don't even vote for man. You say you want a man, but you don't even vote for the definition of what a man is. So it's like, what do they vote for? They support anti-family policies, anti-family, anti-community policies. And that's what I was even with many of the women. It's not even just Black, and this is Black, it's women of all races.
Right.
But every policy they vote for is mostly about women's empowerment, feminism, LGBTQ. It's never about community and family.
It's never about community and family. And that's why I keep saying Black men fundamentally got to stop saying they are our women. You can't say you're our women when your voting choices and voting options and your voting ideologies are not only totally antithetical to Black excellence, but it's totally antithetical to theological principles, and it's totally antithetical to traditional heteronormative masculinity. So we can't keep saying they are our women. Just because your skin color is Black, it don't mean that your consciousness is Black. And if your consciousness is Black, then your skin color doesn't matter. Because the great teacher Jesus said, or in the Bible it said, who is my brother? And then it say, he that does the will of the Father is my brother. So now they're afraid, and now they want Black men to come back to patriarchal duties or patriotic duties and protect the community. But you won't say in the community when you had those DEI informed jobs, or when you had your liberation and your freedom, and you were throwing Black men under the bus. And when these white liberals said that Black women are the backbones of the communities, nobody stood up and said that's not true. We support our Black men, and we support our Black men leadership. They didn't say that. And so, like I saw a young woman yesterday say that, women got a bad attitude because men leave them with children. That's not a bunch of Black men. It's a certain position of a certain percentage of Black men doing that, but that's a false overgeneralization of Black men. Glorious Lover said, I think that we discourage men so much from approaching women now that men do not approach. She said, men do not approach us, and that perpetuates fear in some women. What do you say about that? And I'm about to go in about 5 minutes because I'm about to get ready for this Carolina game. But what do you think about that, man?
Yeah, I think she's correct. I mean, the reality is not even just not approaching them, is that what we have, it's a delusional sense of attractiveness and value. the average woman thinks that she's 10 times more attractive than the average man because of social media, because of the constant validation and the constant likes and the constant attention they get. So they think that the average woman think the average man is disgusting. I'm being honest with you. And many women are offended. They feel in many ways that man just lowered their value by approaching them, and they feel disrespected. So women only want to attract the men that they're attracted to approach them. And with social media, you'll even see a woman that's 350 pounds. She'll get approached by a normal average man, and if he's not an image of what she finds attractive, she's absolutely offended. So men have learned from that. It's just like in the dating events. The dating events, a lot of men feel like these women are there just to validate the attention they got on social media.
Right.
Because they got men already. There's a difference between being single and being celibate. Some people are single, but they're still sexually active. So they still got men. The men they really love or enjoy is living right around the corner. And he's coming over at 11 p.m. and he's putting in some serious work. So at the end of the day, he's not paying for any dates. He's not doing. These women are not celibate, and like many of the men are not either. But these women are not single. There's too many options. Social media just opened up the portal of optionality for women. It didn't do the same for men, for certain percentage of the men. But some men are rotating 5, 6 women. Other men have none, or they just barely can get one. Or they, whatever. But the women have a tremendous amount of option for sausage, option for marriage, not with the men they want.
Right.
And a lot of women don't want to go to the Boyce Watkins route until it's the final days where the options are running out. So we have an issue with delusion in the culture right now. I mean, a lot of my sisters are delusional. A lot of women are white and black because of social media. Social media is it's a drug. I always say attention is the most dangerous drug in the world today. It's like crack cocaine and a high. You can't talk to them. You can't rationalize with them. You can't reason with them. You can't talk a woman out of her feelings, especially when she's getting validated by 30 simps. You say something, 30 simps say something else. Who's she gonna believe? Because they're thirsty. They want to get in her pants. She's talking to them on the internet. And what are you going to tell her? That she's not a 10, a perfect 10? What are you going to convince her of anything? So we're dealing with delusion now. And men have to be careful also when you're dealing with personality disorders, mental health issues. We got some women with some, no disrespect to the ladies, but we got some women with some serious mental health issues because nobody has ever told them the truth.
Right.
And they've lived their whole life in a world of delusion. We go at men go at each other all the time. We go at each other's when we're not squared away, when we're goofy, when we do things, when we make mistakes, but they don't really have that level of accountability. Now, what they do as a group of women is sabotage the crap out of each other. I never knew how much women hate each other until you spend time around them and then you get one of them alone and they do that sabotaging. They sabotage the crap out of each other. The old ones sabotage the young one, especially the ones that have mismanaged their youth. They don't give the young women the game. No, they tell them go out here and get ran through. Go out here, focus on your career and date as many men as possible. By the time they get to the point where they're 35, 40, you're like, what the hell has happened to them? Damage, trauma. And I always say women weren't designed to be passed around like Skittles. Nobody's supposed to be tasting the rainbow or whatever last one of them.
Well, a lot of them are singing that song by Dorothy. I'm going to do a show called Somewhere Over the Rainbow.
Yeah,
I'm going to do a show called Somewhere Over the Rainbow. His side. I think I'm gonna finish reviewing.
You saw the church event, right, Coach? With 1,000 women showed up.
I didn't see it, man.
There's a lady got on text. Like 1,000. Okay, women showed up at the church, right? And I call the modern church is like I call it like Jasper remanufactured engines. Except that it's not the engine, it's virginity. You go to the church and you get your virginity remanufactured. And you sell it for marriage prices. And that's what's happening with the modern church. And guys are just guys are going over there. Like guys are not going to go there because we already know, a guy knows that these women already got men. They got babies, they got men, and they have not done anything to become what men want. Their attitudes, their mindset. If anything, they become better victims. Because what they're going to say is all men's fault. Men are just not doing much. Men are not just performing much. So we have all these women who've negotiated their sexual opportunity on the. It's like marriage to them is the last stop on the liberation rail line.
Train. No, I agree.
So they're back at the church. They're rebranding it, but they're slicking that, using the church to try and manipulate a man using God and religion into a traditional role where he's going to pay their bills. But they haven't changed anything about themselves or their mindset or mentality. They haven't gotten therapy for their trauma. Mm-hmm. They have no desire to be a traditional. And you're a guy number 20. Mm-hmm. So you really, I mean, what are you getting at, guy? You're just getting a Bible thumping woman that is manipulating the word of God to get an outcome that she should have gotten when she was 22, but she didn't get that when she was 22 because her mindset was on this feminism and being liberated. Now she's trying to gouge at the end. She's 40. She's trying a relationship gouge. She's talking about men need to pay 100% of bills and traditional man. Where all this crap come from, kosher? I didn't hear this stuff I didn't hear this shit 5 years ago, 6 years ago. Now that these Republicans has taken over the government, the programs are cut. All I hear about provider man and traditional man and whatever else. How are you a traditional man if you're a man number 30? If I'm number 30, how am I traditional with you? I don't understand.
Yeah. Like I said, man, it's a violation of the social contract requires a traditional man. You can't be asking for no 100% provider if you're not a virgin. If you're not a virgin, wife ready, no kids, if you got low bodies, we can negotiate, but don't be asking for no 100% provider man, because I'm not paying 100% of no bills. I'm gonna run my program the way I want to run my program. And I'm going to tell you what my program is, and you can tell me what your expectations are. And if you don't meet my program standards, then you're going to get cast to the wind. Gregory Scotland said that coaching many black women in financial trouble now, and they're looking for men to prop them up. Productive men must be very careful. I agree with that. I'm going to go in about 5 minutes, Roger. He said that many black men in general are possessed by altruism. I totally agree with that.
Yes.
She
and
said,
you guys, please support the channel. We want to keep the good content coming. We want to keep these live streams going.
Oh yeah. Support the channel, guys. And look, do me a favor, share the stream, man. Share the stream. My channel is weird, man. Like last week, man, it was popping hot, and this week the numbers are low. I don't know. It's weird.
Well, today we have like 72 people watching, and
well, it's more than that. It's 72. With Dr. L got 72 of his people. You got 25, and 18 of my people are watching. But
I always say now with these dating events and even with the current dating and relationships dynamic, the missing ingredients is your money. They already got men. Only thing that's missing is your money. Mm-hmm. They got men already. Mm-hmm. What's missing is long-term relationship financial commitment, and in an egalitarian way in their mind.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, what does traditionalism mean to them? That means that you pay all the bills, and we share
power.
Two captains. So you pay all the bills, and we could be two captains, and you can't tell me what to do. So really, they want to be under your wallet, not under your leadership.
That's true.
Because you ask them about traditional behavior, and because they're gonna in my opinion, I think the marriage situation is about resources, money, and leverage, more than a general desire to be under the leadership of a strong man. And that's where the switch is going to go. Yeah, they'll use the church. Yeah, they'll use all that stuff until that contract is signed with the state.
Right.
And then it's back to feminism again. Because now the guy is invested. Because people are going to go to the behaviors that they're accustomed to, which is the ideology and the mindset of feminism that has been indoctrinated in them since the time they were young. And they're going to return to that. They may gaslight traditionalism until they get married, but in essence, what they really want is compensation and want money and security. So the fundamental thing about it is this, especially women that have lived a certain life, these dudes that have any self-esteem with the men they want, most of these guys are just not going to marry them. I hate to say it. The guys that they want are not going to marry them. Not under the current laws, not under the current condition.
Well, that's what Dr. L was talking about from the beginning with the conversation with the young lady, Taylor. Shout out to her.
Right.
And I agree with him. Masculine men ain't selling for that BS. Masculine men do what they want to do. Males do what society tells them to do. No woman's going to tell me how to run my kingdom. Right. She can either come in and contribute and be part of my life, or she can go. And listen, it ain't nothing personal. I wish her well. I'm not going to disrespect her, but you're not going to tell me how to run my program. You're not going to tell me how to run my program based on your feminine, your worldview, right, and your pedagogical framework that's tied to liberalism and feminism and social justice. Right. That ain't gonna work. There are men that will accept that, but not on my clock. Shout out to Glorious Level for the $4.99 super chat. I think that's for you, Peaceful Life.
Salute to you,
shout out to High Vibe. She said she gifted Dr. L with 5 memberships. Shout out to High Vibe 1001. Guys, make sure y'all show some love to all the brothers. It takes a lot of time putting these shows together. But we're gonna end it, Doc. This was good, man. You tapping in, giving your input, and Gregor said it's very weird that when you came into the space in 2021, you were getting good numbers, but it seems like since the mid 2000s, your numbers been all over. Yeah, it is all over the place, Gregor. Yeah, like last week, man, I had about 100 folks, man, and I don't know what's going on. It's all over the place, brother. It's up and down, up and down. I don't know if they're pushing it out. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. And, that's why I told you, might even start. I mean, it is what it is, but you're right. It's all over the place. You're 100% correct, Gregor. It's all over the place.
Yeah, it's different, man. But it was a great conversation tonight, man. And I think hopefully something changes in terms of if people that want. But what I hear of the conversation for a lot of women, they want relationships on their terms. Mm-hmm. They want masculinity on their terms.
Right.
And most of it is centered around getting a financial gain, not about having real connection, real leadership, being under a man's leadership, becoming a part of a man's program. It's relationships under their term. They don't care what men want, and they don't care what men desire. What they care about are men giving me what I want, which is the resources that I think I deserve as a woman. And that's where the conversation falls on deaf ears, especially now in 2026 for the older people that are still single. You can't be a feminist all your life, and then all of a sudden you want to be a traditional woman, or say you're a traditional woman. Only the parts of traditionalism that involve a man paying for all your stuff. That's where it falls on deaf ears, and that's where it fails. It becomes a conversation all about money.
To the guys that are tapping in, make sure y'all subscribe to the channel. Glorious Love said, what's the name of your channel? It's at the Kosher Clinician. It's Kosher Clinician at G. Well, it's at the Kosher Clinician. Let's go and check out my channel. Actually, let me put my channel in the chat. And guys, I'm continuing to show some love to the channel. Hold tight. And once again, this is a good conversation. I'm gonna do a follow-up to this video with Dr. Eldon Taylor. I really didn't get to breaking it down. But
I didn't hear too much of it with Taylor. I mean, I guess I'll have to go back and watch the show. But I think the fundamental is just a disconnect, because I think the conversation gets into more of so much about what men need to be, and it's always focused about there ain't enough men living up to the standard. There ain't enough eligible men out here for the women.
Yeah, I don't believe that. We know that's not true. I'm not saying we don't have some emotional men, and we do. But I think there are a lot of good men, decent brothers. I think there's some good, decent sisters. Paul S. said, I'm white, and it's good to see black men not bound to feminists. No doubt, Paul. Make sure you tap into the channel, Paul. I put the link in the channel, guys. To those that are listening, go ahead and hit the like button. Support Peaceful Life, support me, support Dr. L. And go ahead and subscribe to the channel and support content. But we're going in here, man. My Tar Heels about to get it in, man. My
Go
Tar
ahead and do
Heels,
your thing, man. All right.
North Carolina about to get it in, man. And once again, brother, thank you for tapping in. All right, be good, sir.
I appreciate you having me on, man. I'm out.
All right, brother, be good. Yes, sir. All right. All right, that was my man, Peaceful Life. And guys, we're going to end it here. We're going to end it. Thank you guys for tapping in. And we're going to end it here as I get ready to see my talking space. So thank you guys. And we're going to play this little intro. Y'all be well. Good.
Happens when the world takes the time to hear what men want. Are his needs hidden in obscurity or analyzed and scrutinized under the lens of female validation? Does her feelings shape his masculinity or the opposite?
I wonder, and I think this is, maybe it's kind of linked into what we're going to talk about with these other clips as well. But do you have any ideas about how this is going to, I have two questions. How do you think this might be reconciled? And what's your forecast? What's your prediction for how this is how this is going to play out in the near future?
So my forecast is that it's not going to work with the masculine men, because that is not something that I'm looking for in a relationship. Now, certainly it would be nice if I walked into my house and my wife greeted me, "Oh, baby, I missed you," this, that, and the other. That would be great. I'm not saying that men don't want any type, or certainly myself don't want any type of emotional connection. I think that's certainly necessary. But as far as marriage and intertwining, and when we talk about marriage, I'm assuming we're talking about intertwining our lives with the state. And so you're not going to get a lot of masculine men to sign up for that. As that clip you played before said, for men with options, you're just not going to get men to sign up for that. That's not a priority. And when they talk about, here's where it goes into the second part, there is this emotional connection and this, that, and the other. That takes a lot of effort for men. And I'm saying this as a man who has spent my time in male-dominated spaces, be it the church, be it, well, it was male-dominated, but not so much anymore.
Another conversation.
I have a lot of male friends, obviously, in my time in the police department, and I talked to these guys, right? We would talk to the fire guys, fire department personnel. We would just talk and just chop it up, and that is not a priority with them. And it takes a lot of emotional effort on the man's part to meet these needs. And I'm going to say something that's going to be really crazy. It can be torturous. It can be torturous.
My goodness.
It can be torturous to listen to on a daily basis your day. Not saying it shouldn't happen. Not saying that men shouldn't be concerned. But listen, baby, I gotta tell you, somebody stole my Pepsi. I had a refrigerator, and my boss did this, and the security guard didn't do that, and can you believe somebody parked in my spot this, and I had a deadline. Okay.
kosher clinician. Fire for your mind. The kosher clinician.
If it ain't seven, it ain't kosher. Heaven and hell, that's what they told you. Real men put the strap down and we can toss them. Young heads picking back up and young dolphins. This is our culture. Now we talking kosher. Clinician, masculinity issues. Absent fathers who miss you. Mama drama don't kiss you. All a part of the ritual. This is how they get you. Separate the men, women clipping babies pretend to. Damn. Lovers, haters acting like vultures. If it ain't seven, it ain't kosher. If it ain't kosher, ain't right, gotta divorce us. If it ain't seven, it ain't kosher. If it ain't kosher, ain't right, gotta divorce us. If it ain't seven, it ain't kosher. If it ain't kosher, ain't right, gotta divorce us. This is kosher condition. 7 wonders, the whole world gotta listen. This is kosher condition. 7 wonders, the whole world gotta listen. This is kosher condition. 7 wonders, the whole world gotta listen. This is kosher condition. 7 wonders, the whole world gotta listen. Listen.